from the New Hampshire International Speedway. The Indy Racing League is on the air with the True Value 200. Today's pre-race coverage is brought to you by Raybestos. With safety, there is no compromise. Insist on Raybestos, the best in brakes. Aurora, proud to be the official pace car of the Indy Racing League. And by True Value, the official hardware store of the Indy Racing League. Now, here's Gary Lee.
Since the 1920s, Indy cars have competed in the Northeast. First, it was the dirt mile at Syracuse, New York. Then the high bank board track at Rockingham Park in nearby Salem, New Hampshire. And in more recent decades, the old fairgrounds track at Trenton, New Jersey hosted first the roadsters and then the sleek rear engine cars. Today, that tradition continues as New Hampshire International Speedway is the site of the True Value 200. I'm Gary Lee, and I'll be joined by Mike King, Vince Welch, and Mark Jaynes as the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network provides live flag-to-flag coverage of the opening race of the 1996-97 Indy Racing League season and the first step on the road to the 1997 Indy 500. Below our vantage point, 23 cars are now being lined up along the front straightaway as we are now about 20 minutes away from the command to fire engines. Before this race takes the green, though, let's review the inaugural season of the Indy Racing League. Last January in Orlando, Florida, in the shadows of Cinderella's castle at Walt Disney World, rookie Buzz Calkins beat fellow rookie Tony Stewart to the checkered flag to take the early points lead. In April, at the Desert Mile in Phoenix, Arizona, Ari Leyendijk set a track record in qualifying and blitzed the competition in the 200-mile event. Buddy Lazier suffered a badly broken back, and his status was a question mark as the month of May neared. But when practice began for the 80th running of the Indianapolis 500, Lazier was in the cockpit and drove a gutsy race to put his likeness on the Borg-Warner Trophy. The first Indy Racing League season concluded with two drivers tied for the championship. They are Scott Sharp today driving for A.J. Foyt and Buzz Calkins driving for his dad's Bradley Motorsports team. Now a new racing season is upon us, and the quest for the championship will conclude in Indianapolis, Indiana next May. But today it begins in Loudon, New Hampshire.
You think about your car a lot. You have grease under your fingernails. You can name all the NASCAR drivers and the cars they drive. You know rebuilding a four-barrel isn't easy. It's fun. You can talk for hours about carburetors. You read about the auto show. You go to the auto show. You understand the difference between 30 weight and 40 weight, and you know where to go if you don't. True Value, official hardware store of NASCAR and garages everywhere. So hey, come in the True Value and find everything you need for your car, like Gojo Natural Citrus Hand Cleaner with pumice. It has a clean, fresh scent and really powers out grease and grime. USA Fashion Magic's Ratchet Tie-Down secures cargo for transport on your trailer or truck with coated hooks that won't damage your vehicle's finish. The 8-gallon Rubbermaid Action Packer storage container features double wall construction and a sturdy hinge lid for a tight, water-resistant seal. True Value. Help is just around the corner.
From New Hampshire, this is the Indy Racing League. For our Speedway Radio Network listeners with internet capabilities, we invite you to enhance your radio experience with near real-time race data. The IMS website address is www.brickyard.com. We welcome you back to New Hampshire International Speedway for the True Value 200. Now, this track is 1 mile in length. It's an oval with long straightaways and tight turns. The turns are banked 12 degrees. But, Mike King, there has been some repaving, and that is providing a new challenge for these teams.
Yeah, that's true, Gary. And, in fact, all 4 turns have been repaved down low, and it's going to present a very interesting situations for these drivers, both as they set up to enter the turns and as they exit the turns. Turn 2 has been particularly tricky. We had 2 incidents involving both Johnny Unser and Brad Murphy during practice sessions, and both of them had problems in Turn 2. It seems that the exit of 2 and the exit of 4 provide certainly some problems for the drivers.
And a nice announcement yesterday, we have new incentive for qualifying from PPG.
Certainly do, and of course, as this new series evolves, you're going to see more of these announcements, but the PPG Pole Award will now be awarded at each IRL event, $10,000 for the winner of the pole. So Richie Hearn will be the man picking up the first check from PPG. 50. Now, in addition, you will receive 2 points for winning the pole, and the lap leader for today's race in each IRL event will also pick up an extra point. So it's going to be interesting to see how these changes affect the final point standings.
And as you indicated, Richie Hearn has the pole position, qualified yesterday at 175.3. He's standing by with Vince Welch.
Richie Hearn will start from the pole in the True Value 200. And Richie, I know you've been on the pole before in other styles of racing. Will it be any different here in the Indy Racing League?
Well, I'm sure it'll be a little different. There's a little more pressure and in front of a bigger crowd on live TV and all that. But I think if I just stick to what I know, it'll all turn out okay.
Excitement or nervousness?
Both. There's always a little bit of both. It's natural when you come to an event like this, and it's just your body getting ready for the event is all it is. It's if you never got nervous, there'd be something wrong.
All right, what did you address in the drivers' meeting today?
Well, they just talked about the speed we want for the start, and and all the things for the yellow flags, and what they do when the pits are closed, and all the normal stuff. It's pretty standard every time.
A couple of different races on this track before the IRL race this afternoon. Concerned at all about the conditions of the track?
Yeah, quite a bit. I think that's going to be quite an experience first couple of laps because of all the rubber that's been laid down, and I know they're going to try to clean it up as good as they can, but the modifieds lay down some serious rubber, and they just got done, and it's pretty warm out, so it's going to be the first pit stop is going to be a tough one, I think.
Of course, you don't win on lap 1. It's lap 200, but at the same time, from the pole, do you go for the lead right off the bat?
I'd like to, yeah. I'd like to just go ahead and get in the lead and just dictate my own pace. And if after that they want to run harder, I'll probably let them go because, tire wear and conserving your car is going to be a big factor at the end of the race. So, I'm not here to win the first 50. I want to, win the last one.
Richie Hearn, he'll lead the pack from the pole position.
And the pleasant surprise yesterday in qualifying came from the Formula One veteran. Michele Alboreto has only been on an oval 4 times so far in his career, all in 1996. He qualified at 175.125, the first time he's been starting in the front row since a Formula One race in 1988. He's standing by with Mark Jaynes.
Michele Alboreto, for some, setting the car up has been a struggle this weekend. Has your car been handling to your satisfaction?
Yes, the car was very good from the beginning of this weekend. I'm very pleased to drive because it's easy to get the right speed. So I'm also surprised because I never have a car like this in the oval this year.
Speaking of ovals, I think you made the statement leaving Indianapolis that maybe you felt as though you'd cut your teeth on ovals, and now you're really looking forward to getting past the learning process and being seriously competitive on ovals.
Yes, I spent the beginning of this season just to learn because I arrived from another category, so everything is new for me. And I try to learn as quick as possible, but there is still a lot of things to do.
It's been a learning experience for Alboreto, who has won 5 times in Formula One competition. In fact, he was the runner-up for the world title back in 1985. Could he pick up his first ever oval victory today? We'll find out.
When it's time to make the choice for your family and your car, you don't make compromises when you know what the choices are. So take a stand for quality and safety's sake. Say Ray Bestis, the best in brakes. Say Ray Bestis, the best in brakes. Say Ray Bestis, the best in brakes.
For those who have never experienced the dizzying excitement of the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, now you can. Because on January 19th, 1997, these super trucks stop at Walt Disney World. But you'd better hurry. Tickets are going fast. Call 1-800-822-INDY to reserve yours. That's 1-800-822-INDY. Chevy Truck presents the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series at Walt Disney World Speedway. These guys really haul.
From New Hampshire, this is the Indy Racing League. Activity starts to pick up along the front straightaway as the cars are being readied for this True Value 200. Here now is your starting lineup. Up in front, once again, car number 4, Richie Hearn from Canyon Country, California. In the Ralph's Food for Less Fujifilm, it's a 95 Renard Ford. And we mentioned Michele Alboreto, car number 33 from Monte Carlo in the Scandia Rio Hotel and Casino, Perry Ellis Royal Purple, also a 95 Renard Ford. In the second row on the inside, Ari Lyondike, car number 5 from Scottsdale, Arizona, the My Jack Products, Bryan Heating and Cooling Special, a 95 Renard Ford. And outside, row 2, the winner of this year's Indy 500, car number 91, Buddy Lazier from Vail, Colorado, in the Himmelgarn Racing Delta Fawcett Super Fitness 95 Renard Ford.
On the inside of row 3 from Greenfield, Indiana, Mark Dismore with a good run. He's in the Quaker State Menard Special. It's a 95 Lola powered by a Menard engine. He qualified just over 172 miles an hour. On the outside of 3, Eliseo Salazar from Santiago, Chile, in the Crystal Copec Mobile Scandia XL Alta Perry Ellis entry, the 95 Lola. Tony Stewart will start on the inside of row 4. He's, of course, from Indianapolis, the Glidden Menard Special, a 95 Lola powered by the Menard engine. On the outside of 4, Eddie Cheever, who now owns his own team. It's the same car he campaigned at the Speedway during the month of May. He's from Aspen, Colorado. The First Plus Team Cheever entry, a 95 Lola powered by Menard.
Inside row 5, car number 10, Mike Groff from Pasadena, California, the Jonathan Bird's Cafeteria 95 Renard Ford. And alongside one of the co-champions of the inaugural season of the Indy Racing League, 25-year-old Buzz Calkins, car number 12 from Denver, Colorado, in the Bradley Motorsports Bradley Food Marts 95 Renard Ford. Now we move to row 6 on the inside, car number 18, John Paul Jr. from West Palm Beach, Florida, in the V-Line Earl's Performance Products Crown Plaza, a 93 Lola Menard. And outside the other co-champion driving car number 1 for A.J. Foyt Enterprises, Scott Sharp from Danville, California. It's a 95 Lola Ford. Inside row 7
will be Robbie Buell from Michigan, the original Coors Beck Motorsports entry. It's a 94 Lola powered by Ford. On the outside of 7 is Stephen Gregoire. He now lives in Indianapolis. The Scandia Perry Ellis entry, a 95 Lola, also Ford power. In row 8 on the inside, Marco Greco. He has more laps here racing than anyone else in the field. He's from Sao Paulo, Brazil. The Scandia International Sports Limited Perry Ellis entry, a 95 Lola with Ford power. And Tice Carlson on the outside making his first IRL start from Indianapolis, the Earl's Performance Products Harrah's Resorts entry.
Row 9 inside, number 14, Davey Hamilton, Boise, Idaho, A.J. Foyt Enterprises, 95 Lola Ford, and Roberto Guerrero, number 21, San Juan Capistrano, California, the Pennzoil entry, 95 Renard Ford. The 10th row, Jim Guthrie, inside Albuquerque, New Mexico, number 27, Team Blueprint, a 93 Lola Menard, and Stan Waddles, number 30, Stuart, Florida, the Spirit of San Antonio, a 94 Lola Ford.
And in row 11, it's Joe Gosick from Oswego, New York, the ABF Motorsports 92 Lola. David Kudrave on the outside of 11. He's from California, the Tempro Jufrey Racing entry, a 93 Lola. And Brad Murphy will start in the 23rd spot by himself in row 12. He's from Tucson, Arizona, the Himmelgarn Racing entry. Field average speed, 167.614 miles an hour, 15 Ford Cosworth engines, 6 Menard V6s, 2 Buicks. Chassis, you've got 15 Lolas and 8 Reynards. Tires today, Goodyear 14, and Firestone will start on 9 cars today.
Once again, we're only minutes away from the drivers being ordered to the cockpit and the command to start the engines. We pause 10 seconds for station identification. This is the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network.
Live from Loudon, New Hampshire, the home of the New Hampshire International Speedway, the Indy Racing League is on the air with the True Value 200. Today, the road to the 1997 Indy 500 begins anew as IRL teams race for over $1 million in their place in the winner's circle. Stay with us for the next 200 miles as wheel-to-wheel action decides who will place their name next to IRL winners like Buzz Calkins, Ari Leyendijk, and Buddy Lazier. It's Indy Racing League action from the Magic Mile. Today's coverage is brought to you by Aurora, proud to be the official pace car of the Indy Racing League. Revestas, with safety there is no compromise. Insist on Revestas. And by True Value, the official hardware store of the Indy Racing League. Now, from the New Hampshire International Speedway, here's Gary Lee.
It is a picture postcard day in New England. Blue skies with puffy white clouds overhead. A temperature in the mid-80s, greeting race fans at New Hampshire International Speedway for today's True Value 200. The first race of the 96-97 Indy Racing League season. This 1-mile oval carved out of the gently rolling hillsides of the Lakes region of central New Hampshire is surrounded by thousands of acres of evergreen. But the serenity will soon be broken by the command to start engines. And the man that will give that command is the Grand Marshal. He's standing by with Vince Welch.
Larry Bird, certainly one of the most popular in this area and also popular back in his home of Indiana. Larry, when did you first develop an interest in auto racing?
It's been years ago, back when I used to watch the 500 on TV. Then I had an opportunity to go up and watch the race, and from then on, been going up about every year.
Ever think about possibly getting involved in the Indy Racing League from an ownership standpoint?
Oh, not really. I got a lot of friends that are doing it now, and they sort of enjoy it, but I don't know if it's for me or not.
How about the just the enjoyment of sitting and watching the race as a fan?
I like to do that because when these cars go around here, it's so amazing, the speed they build up and how they can get so close and pass. And the only thing I don't like is the crashing part of it, but I guess that goes with it.
Well, we hope not to see any of that today. Thank you, Larry. Larry Bird to the Grand Marshal, the True Value 200.
Up for grabs today, over $1.1 million in prize money and the early points lead in the chase for the Indy Racing League Championship.
While developing the engine for the Aurora, we wanted to make sure it could stand up to just about anything. So we ran the 32-valve, 250-horsepower dual overhead cam V8, the equivalent of 31 consecutive Indy 500s. That's over 15,000 miles. And while we're happy to report that the engine held up quite nicely, thank you, the same cannot be said of 47 speed and endurance records, including 2 world records previously held by Mercedes-Benz. So what did we take away from all this? Well, after 7 straight days and nights through wind, rain, and steadily falling temperatures, one thing became obvious. When you're racing into the future, you're bound to shatter a few records, not to mention a few egos along the way. To discover for yourself what makes the Aurora so unique, we invite you to take a test drive today at your authorized Oldsmobile Aurora retailer.
From New Hampshire, this is the Indy Racing League. The road to Indy begins today at New Hampshire at International Speedway. 23 cars lined up along the front straightaway, and now about a minute and a half away from the command to start engines.
An absolutely gorgeous day for racing here. I don't think you could have asked for better. Thousands of fans in the stands, a great-looking field and a fast field up front. As we mentioned earlier, the field average 167.614 miles an hour. And Gary, 8 drivers in this of the 23 drivers in this field have participated here before. Might be interesting to note that the driver with more laps here as far as racing competition is Marco Greco, who will start today in the Team Scandia entry. He qualified 15th fastest at 166.287. But, Gary, he has 551 laps here in 3 previous races. Some of the other drivers who have also competed here, Mike Groff has 3 events under his belt here at New Hampshire. Eddie Cheever, Roberto Guerrero, R.A. Lyondike. Johnny Unser had raced here before. Unfortunately, an incident on Friday will keep him out of this race. Scott Sharp, Eliseo Salazar, and Buddy Lazier have also raced here before.
Only one true rookie in this event, Tice Carlson, a standout of United States Auto Club, midget sprint and Silver Crown racing back in the Midwest from Indianapolis. Qualified yesterday, a good sound qualifying run for Tice Carlson at 165.9 miles an hour. So when Ray Bestas gives the top finishing rookie award of $10,000, we know who that's going to be.
That's right. Tice pretty much knows that he's got that award wrapped up. However, you know that he's going to be out there trying to do the best he can to simply get a handle on the car and on this racetrack and probably sit back and learn. Obviously, as a rookie in his first event, he is going to use this to be a classroom, certainly on the track, and he's not going to do anything silly, that's for sure, but he will try to keep the car out there for all 200 laps.
Well, we are waiting now for the command that will fire these engines. Let's go now and join the public address system. The command was given by Larry Bird, and the engines jumped to life. At the head of the pack, we have a Corvette convertible, a Z28 convertible from the racetrack, and right behind them, the Aurora pace car, driven by 3-time Indianapolis 500 champion Johnny Rutherford, and they will be in command of this field. We'll have at least 3 warm-up laps. They're saying if the tires are not warmed up, we could go 4.
You know, Gary, one note about the tires. Up on the front row, you have 2 drivers who are both on Goodyears. Now, Goodyear did conduct a tire test here earlier in the year. Among those here, Richie Hearn and Roberto Guerrero. Of the chassis, the top 4 cars in the field as far as qualifiers go are Reynards. And as for engines, 5 of the top 6 drivers here that qualified for this event in Ford Cosworth, so or powered rather by Ford Cosworth. So an interesting mix right now, but Goodyear sitting on the front row as far as the tires go, Reynard, the first 4 spots as far as the chassis goes, and 5 of the top 6 powered by the Ford Cosworth engine.
We mentioned earlier Eddie Cheever, starting outside row 4, is driving the same car he drove in the Indianapolis 500. It's a Lola Menard, but actually he bought that car from John Menard. He's now a car owner, but he switched tire compounds. Early on, they tested Goodyear's, and Team Menard then switched to Firestone tires. They ran Firestone through the Indianapolis 500. Team Menard with Tony Stewart and Mark Dismore on Firestones this weekend. However, it was Eddie Cheever's decision to switch back to Goodyear.
Well, Eddie Cheever qualified 16th. His speed 170.852 miles an hour. And let me correct that. He was 16th in points last year. He actually qualified 8th for the outside of row 4.
Well, right now the field is away, including Brad Murphy, who did not get a qualification time yesterday. Brad was involved in a morning practice crash in the Hemmelgarn Racing number 9, a Renard Ford, with moderate damage. The crew worked most of the night to get that car back on the racetrack.
86 degrees at race time here in New Hampshire. Actually a pretty warm day for this part of the country, but it is absolutely gorgeous. A lot of fans in the stands with the shirts off, grabbing a little sunshine before we get started. 116 degrees, the track temperature, so it could be a little slick out there.
Once again, the starting lineup in row number 1, Richie Hearn and Michele Alboreto. In the second row, Ari Lyondike and Buddy Lazier. In row 3, Mark Dismore and Aliseo Salazar. In the fourth row, Tony Stewart will start 7th alongside Eddie Cheever. In the fifth row, it's Mike Groff and Buzz Calkins as they complete their first of 3 warm-up laps. Then in row 6, John Paul Jr. and Scott Sharp. Robbie Buell and Stefan Gregoire in row 7. In the 8th row, Marco Greco and Tice Carlson, the rookie. Row 9, Davey Hamilton, Roberto Guerrero. In the 10th row, Jim Guthrie and Stan Wattles. Row 11, Joe Gosick, the super modified champion, and David Kudrave. And rounding out the field, Brad Murphy. And so 1 of 3 practice laps, or should we say warm-up laps, now in the book. In the 7th position, Tony Stewart. He qualified 7th at Orlando and finished in 2nd position. But Vince Welch, there is some optimism in Team Menard with how that car is set up.
Absolutely. As a group, Team Menard prepared for the race setup from the very beginning this weekend. Tony Stewart was quickest in the late practice yesterday on full tanks, and he's been the only driver that has run with real success down low on the track. And also teammate Mark Dismore has loved his car from the very beginning this weekend. Larry Curry of Team Menard says of Dismore, this guy can flat out drive. I think you should watch for Stewart and Dismore today.
As a rookie, Gary, Tony Stewart was the only driver to lead in all 3 events in the inaugural Indy Racing League season. He qualified once again for the inside of 4 with a lap speed average of 171.190 miles an hour. Interesting to note, though, yesterday during full tank testing, he and Richie Hearn were much faster than the rest of the field. They were running somewhere around the 168, 169 mile an hour mark, and most of the other cars on full tanks were not topping the 162 or 163 mile an hour mark.
Well, the question right now is what type of track conditions do we have? We had a United States Auto Club Formula 2000 race today. We then had the NASCAR Featherlight Modifieds. They ran a 75-lap event. A lot of new rubber on the racetrack as Johnny Rutherford pulls the pace car off. The field now belongs to Richie Hearn. The 25-year-old from Canyon Country, California, will bring them through turn 3 into turn 4 in the black, yellow, and white Renard and the all-red Alboreto car. Brian Howard, the green flag is out. We are underway here in the True Value 200. A car in the wall already down the front stretch on the inside. Jim Guthrie, number 27. And just as the green flag was flying for the start, we have a problem. Another car up against the wall.
I believe that's
outside.
Robbie Buell, Gary. I believe that's Buell. It's in the wall outside of inside of turn 1 and 2, between
Robbie
1 and 2.
Buell.
Yeah.
So right away on the first lap, we have the yellow immediately. The green came out, the field came down, and Guthrie, who was starting inside row 10, may have been tapped from the back. He spun around, made contact with the inside wall, and Buell climbs out of his car. Guthrie climbs out of his car. Damage but no injuries. Now I have to wonder, in the case of Buell up there in outside turn 1, entering turn 2, could that be a problem with the new rubber on the racetrack?
Could very well be. In fact, as we saw them come through, the field come through turn number 4, the pole sitter, Richie Hearn, got loose down low in 4 as he began to come onto the front straight. It could be that there is some slick spots there. We had talked to many of the drivers in the garage area before this race obviously started, but while the modifieds were on the course, and they were very concerned of the rubber compound that the modifieds were running because it was a softer compound. They put an awful lot of rubber in the track, and they were afraid that this very situation could occur, that it could be very slick early.
Why do men race? Is it the thrill of the competition or the sudden rush of adrenaline? Is it to hear the roar of the crowd or to test the laws of gravity? Why do men race? Maybe it's to win at Indianapolis. Yeah, that's it. That's why men race. Preserving auto racing's oval track tradition. The Indy Racing League.
When it's time to make the choice for your family and your car, you don't make compromises when you know what the choices are. So take a stand for quality and safety's sake. Say Ray Vestas, the best in brakes. Say Ray Vestas, the best in brakes. Say Ray Vestas, the best in brakes.
From New Hampshire, this is the Indy Racing League. 3 laps are now complete in the True Value 200. We remain under yellow as we had 2 cars crash right as the green flag was flying. Jim Guthrie spun and made contact with the inside wall. Then as the field progressed into turn 1, then turn 2, Robbie Buell in mid-pack spun and hit the outside wall. We're not sure exactly what has transpired to create this situation, but going back to when they came off the 4th corner, the pole position, Richie Hearn, we saw the car move just a bit as though perhaps he lit up the turbocharger. We saw the same thing happen to Richie on a restart at Phoenix last April when he spun. He was leading, brought them around for the start, got on the accelerator, the turbo kicked in, lit up the rear end, and he spun around. So we're not sure, Mike King, if that could have happened that time.
Well, it's interesting to note just how slow the pace lap was running. After Johnny Rutherford brought the pace car off the track, Richie Hearn had kept the field in check. I mean, they were running very slow through 3 and 4, and I've got to assume that he was wanting to tiptoe through, but you're right. If, in fact, it was the turbo lag that he was trying to account for, he didn't do such a great job because the car almost got away from him. He did save it. Now, if that is the case, because the field was being paced so slowly, did that happen, for example, to Guthrie? If the same thing happened to Guthrie, could have put him in the wall. However, for Buell, who had already made his way through turn 1, slid up to the outside wall there in turn 1, it's hard to really speculate what happened there, but we do have 2 cars out of the race, the 54 of Robbie Buell and the 27 of Jim Guthrie.
Vince Welch, an observation from the pit lane.
Tony Stewart didn't waste any time moving up. He moved up 2 positions already before the yellow flag came out, and Larry Curry of Team Menard immediately checked with the USAC observer and official to make sure that they were understanding that he had actually gained those 2 positions before the yellow came out, already thinking ahead to make sure they're not penalized.
Well, Johnny Rutherford drives the Aurora pace car. Right behind Lone Star JR is Richie Hearn. Second now is Ari Lyondike. Alboreto is third. Lazier is fourth. As you indicated, Vince, 5th position is now the number 2 car of Stewart. And then we'll have Salazar. Single file for the restart. I did not see the furl flag indicating 1 more lap as they came by the starters stand.
Well, Brian Howard has the green flag in hand right now, and it looks like the light is out on the pace car, so it does appear that this time by they will, in fact, get the green flag, Gary.
Yeah, John brings the pace car off the track. Once again, the field belongs to Richie Hearn, and right behind for the restart is Ari Lyondike. Then a big gap back to Alboreto. And then tucked right in behind Alboreto is Lazier, and then Stewart, Salazar, Cheever, and Mark Dismore. On the restart, single file into turn 1. Using a little lower groove than he qualified yesterday is Hearn. Hearn with about 3 car lengths off the corner, down the backstretch, and a big gap back to, there's a battle for the lead going into the 3rd turn.
Ari Lyondike with some speed as he comes down low through 3, then comes about halfway up on that groove, and it will be Ari Lyondike, the leader, as they get set across the start-finish line to complete lap 6.
Well, Hearn just went to school as the veteran. Lyondike scooted by going into turn 3. And now a gap develops of about 10, 12 car lengths between 1st and 2nd down the backstretch. The backstretch here about 6 feet higher than the front straightaway for unobscured viewing into the 12-degree banking of turns 3 and 4. Once again, a little higher that time.
once again, Richie Hearn really being very tentative as he makes his way through 3 and 4, and I have to feel like he is really just a bit tentative about using that low groove.
Well, right now, Tony Stewart is up to 4th position. He has led the last 3, the only driver to lead all 3 of the Indy Racing League events to date, and right now, after starting 7th, he is up to 4th. Now, Alboreto begins to close in on Hearn. The first 3 now almost in a bunch, about 4 car lengths between 1st and 2nd, and closing from 3rd is Alboreto. It looks like Hearn may want to have a piece of the action up there in front. Ari Leyendijk, who set the track record and won the race at Phoenix back in April, had been one of the rabbits in practice on Friday, but could only muster a 3rd quick lap in qualifying yesterday. Brad Murphy, the car that was damaged in the practice session yesterday, yield stays up high down the front straightaway as the leaders move by to the low side.
Gary, Brad Murphy is really moving very slowly right now on the track. Don't know if a problem has developed, but now he is being lapped by 1, 2, 3, 4 cars as Tony Stewart makes his way by, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him on pit lane here very soon.
Well, they had no time to really test that car after they put the car back together following that altercation with the wall yesterday. Now Tony Stewart has moved up directly behind Michele Alboreto. So Alboreto, the veteran of Formula One, about to be challenged for that position side by side in turn 1 into turn 2, and Stewart has it. Stewart now on the move. He's up to 3rd.
As we mentioned earlier, Tony Stewart saying that he could drive the lower groove if he needed to, and now he is closing very quickly on the lead group, Gary, as they become entangled a bit with lap traffic. Tony Stewart, now you could throw a blanket over the front 3.
3 abreast down the front straightaway. Stewart goes to 2nd, tucks in behind Leyendijk into turn 2, about 3 car lengths between those 2. What a gutsy move into turn 1 after coming 3 abreast down the front straightaway, and Tony Stewart, the most aggressive driver out here, he wants to lead this race.
Tony Stewart absolutely threading the needle last time by to pick up the 2nd spot, and right now he is no more than 2 car lengths out of the lead, and he is making the move down low, and 1 as he passes Leyendijk, and Stewart's car, Gary, really working well down low.
Well, we were told earlier by Vince Welch that that car did work down on the low side. That is where he's running, and he now has the lead and is pulling away from the 2nd place car, Ari Leyendijk. And let's check in on that first lap altercation as far as any injuries with Mark Jaynes.
Dr. Henry Bach is here, an update on Guthrie and Robbie Buell.
Drivers Guthrie and Buell are being checked out by the medical staff here in the hospital. However, they're ambulatory, walked in, and do not appear to be injured.
Dr. Henry Bach with an update on Jim Guthrie and Robbie Buell. As soon as they come out of the medical center, we'll try to get a word with both.
Well, Tony Stewart now with a half straightaway advantage over Ari Leyendijk. And as we've been talking about Tony Stewart's drive, how about this drive by Roberto Guerrero? Did not have a good qualifying run. In fact, Guerrero started back in the 18th position. He is now up to 7th.
Roberto Guerrero qualified at just 164.477 miles an hour. In fact, Gary, his practice times late yesterday afternoon on full tanks were faster than his qualifying runs. They had missed the setup badly, and he was very, very disappointed. Now, of course, they're making up for it.
Well, we have never seen a longer face on the likable Colombian than we saw yesterday after he qualified so poorly. But Guerrero is now on the move up to 7th. So your leader once again is Stewart in car number 2, and he is lapping traffic.
Look at the lead that Tony Stewart has opened up now, nearly an entire front straight length over Ari Leyendijk, and it almost appears that he is the class of the field here, and certainly he had a fast car when he ran at Phoenix, and everyone saw what he did at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. If they can keep that Menard V6 together, it looks like Tony Stewart is going to be a very difficult man to catch today.
Tony told us on Friday in the last 17 days he had raced in 13 events, and since the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in the 500, he has raced in mini cups, TQs, midgets, sprints, Silver Crown cars, the NASCAR Super Trucks, and
the NASCAR Busch Grand National Series. 4.9 seconds right now, the difference between your leader, Tony Stewart, and 2nd place, Ari Leyendijk.
Now working on lap number 19. And Stewart is doing the same thing he did at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway back in May until his engine expired. He was the class of the field, and so it is here today. And he has about 6 or 8 slower cars out in front, and he is going to gingerly pick his way by one of the Team Scandia cars. Now, that was the Bradley Motorsports car, the red number 12 of Buzz Calkins. Calkins did not qualify all that well this weekend. He started back in the 10th position. one of the co-champions of the first Indy Racing League season. And look at that kid pick his way through traffic into turn 3.
Well, he's going to have to obviously be careful because right now he's got a very quick car, but you can bet Larry Curry is telling him don't try anything foolish. And right there, he almost tried to go 3 wide down low through 3 and 4. He may be very confident in his car, but he has to certainly be wary of the handling of other machines on the track.
Well, he put Stephen Gregoire a lap down, went by the number 14 of Davey Hamilton, and now squeezes by another car entering the 3rd turn. So right now, indeed, he is the fastest car driver combination out there. And he has a rhythm going as he pulls up behind Joe Gosick and goes it by Joe. So once again, with 22 laps now complete, it's been all Tony Stewart.
You think about your car a lot. You have grease under your fingernails. You can name all the NASCAR drivers and the cars they drive. You know rebuilding a 4-barrel isn't easy. It's fun. You can talk for hours about carburetors. You read about the auto show. You go to the auto show. You understand the difference between 30 weight and 40 weight. And you know where to go if you don't. True Value, official hardware store of NASCAR and garages everywhere. So hey, come into True Value and find everything you need for your car. Like Gojo Natural Citrus Hand Cleaner with pumice. It has a clean, fresh scent and really powers out grease and grime. USA Fashion Magic's Ratchet Tie-Down secures cargo for transport on your trailer or truck with coated hooks that won't damage your vehicle's finish. The 8-gallon Rubbermaid Action Packer storage container features double wall construction and a sturdy hinge lid for a tight, water-resistant seal. True Value. Help is just around the corner.
From New Hampshire, this is the Indy Racing League. The Indy Racing League would like to thank the following official sponsors for their support of the league through various sponsorship programs. Aurora by Oldsmobile, the official pace car of the Indy Racing League. Featherlight Trailers, official trailer of the IRL and Stoops Freightliner trucks in Indianapolis. Pennzoil, the official motor oil of the Indy Racing League. And True Value Hardware, the official hardware of the Indy Racing League and the title sponsor of the True Value 200 this weekend here at New Hampshire International Speedway.
2 cars on pit lane right now, one of them being Eddie Cheever in car number 51, and they are working frantically on his car. Smoke trailing from the right side of that machine as he comes in. Could be a turbo problem, but right now he's been in for about 30 seconds, and now the hood cowling is coming off of the 28 car of Tice Carlson, the rookie from Indianapolis.
Only 8 cars remain on the lead lap as the team is being blitzed this afternoon by Tony Stewart. His team manager is Larry Curry. Vince?
Standing here with Larry, and Larry just had a quick conversation with Tony Stewart. What did you tell him, Larry?
Second place car is Ari Lyondike, car 5.
Larry, what were you talking with Tony about?
Wanted to know who second was, and I told him we was approaching him to lap him.
Seemed to be the class of the field so far. A fear at all of being too aggressive?
No, we're not being aggressive. We're not running nearly as quick. We've got the thing turned down right now, but we really worked hard on a good race setup. And where we can run on the bottom of this racetrack, we felt that was the key. And if you notice, the majority of his passes are on the bottom, so looks like some of the guys picked the wrong way to go.
Larry Curry thrilled to death with the way Tony Stewart's running thus far.
Right now, we have 4 cars on the lead lap, and the leader, Tony Stewart, has been passing on the high side the last lap, and he's about to pick off the 4th place car of, that would be the number 4 car. No, now he's already picked him off. Only 4 cars in the lead lap. He's up behind Alboreto going down the backstretch.
And now his teammate Mark Dismore trying to fall in behind him and try to, I think, use the draft just a bit if he can and follow the leader, if you will. Unbelievable to watch what Tony Stewart has done. It's almost like, Gary, he is glued to any part of the track he wants to pass on. He can go high, he can go low. Larry Curry and the rest of Team Menard have worked an awful lot with the front wing combinations all week, and whatever they've done, you just heard him, they went the right way, and it seems like everyone else went the wrong way.
3 cars in the lead lap make it, almost contact over in turn 3 as Stewart goes to the low side of Buddy Lazier. He gets around coming off the 4th corner and sets sail for 2nd place. Ari Lyondike now about a half straightaway back. We've got a problem down the front straightaway. Joe Gosick in number 96 has made contact with the outside wall. We go yellow on lap 35. Joe Gosick in the cockpit. We see movement directly below our vantage point here as he comes to rest, headed the wrong direction.
Gary, he got loose as he came out of four. It appeared that he simply lost the steering in that car, hit the outside wall as he exited four, and the car sits just below us right now. And this is about the only thing that's going to slow down Tony Stewart.
Quickly, let's go back to the pit lane to find out what the problem is with the new team owner and driver, Eddie Cheever.
Eddie Cheever has gotten out of the car, and they've taken the side pods off, obviously done for the day. So a disappointing debut for Team Cheever. Eddie Cheever out of the True Value 200.
Well, a big advantage this yellow flag was for Ari Leyendijk because he was about to go a lap down. He was about a half straightaway out in front of your leader as the yellow came out. So now as the leader is picked up by the Aurora pace car, Johnny Rutherford driving, Leyendijk will go all the way around and pick up his position at the back of the pack.
Gary, very quickly, so we can keep you up on the progress of your favorite driver. Here's the 30-lap field summary. Tony Stewart, the leader. Ari Leyendijk, Buddy Lazier runs third. Then Michele Alboreto. That's the way the front four will stack up. Then Richie Hearn and Mark Dismore. Those were the only cars in lap 30 that remained on the lead lap. Running in 7th place, Eliseo Salazar. Scott Sharp was running 8 at lap 30. Then Davey Hamilton, Roberto Guerrero, Buzz Calkin shown in 11th place. Mike Groff, 12th. Stefan Gregoire, John Paul Jr., Marco Greco, Stan Waddles, Joe Gosick, 17th. Dave Kudrave, Brad Murphy, Eddie Cheever, Tice Carlson, Robbie Buell, and Jim Guthrie in 23rd position.
A little early for routine pit stops, but a couple of cars now on pit road. Richie Hearn in car number 4 and car number 21, Roberto Guerrero. They took on fuel, made a slight adjustment to the chassis in car number 4, and Hearn returns to the racetrack. So obviously, if a car is not working, this is a good opportunity to make some adjustments. They are changing tires, making some adjustments, and refueling car number 21. So Guerrero, who did not start all that well, really made a nice ride, had moved up to 7th position before this yellow.
Let's go back to what Richie Hearn said prior to this race. You know, I'm not interested in leading the first 50 laps. The only lap I'm concerned with is lap number 200. Well, Tony Stewart was an absolute runaway early on at the Indianapolis 500. He had all the power he wanted, and he was leading by 6-7 seconds the entire field. But the bottom line in racing is you got to be there at the end, and that's going to be the key right now for Tony Stewart as he, Gary, comes into the pits.
And his teammate, Mark Dismore, right behind him. So he had almost a lap lead on the entire field. He comes in to perhaps just take on tires and fuel. Let's see if they make any adjustment. I cannot imagine them making an adjustment to that race car as well as it was going out there.
Well, no one has come close to touching either the front or the rear wing, and you can bet that this is routine. All they're going to do is put a new set of tires on. Now he has a little bit of trouble getting out. Of course, that's not going to hurt him at all because this is under
and
yellow.
Mark Dismore spins. He got it lit up coming out of the pits and spins at the pit exit. Let's go down to Vince.
Well, Mark Dismore did indeed spin, and he has just whipped it right back around in the pit lane and is underway again. Incredible move from Mark Dismore as he left the pit area. He almost hit a crew member and then spun it around and then spun it right back in the correct direction.
The reason we are under yellow is for a spin and wall contact by Joe Gosick. He was uninjured, the car with moderate damage to the left rear. Now, Joe did not get in this car until yesterday for the practice session. In fact, he was running a super modified race at Lee Speedway in New Hampshire on Friday evening, was up in 2nd position before he had some problems and finished 7th. So he had very little time in this car.
Got to be a bit of a disappointment, certainly to many of the fans here in the Northeast that have followed his exploits in a super modified. He's a legend here when it comes to that form of racing. His first IRL appearance came at the 500 where he did very similar, a very similar situation, jumping into a car literally the last minute, but having enough expertise to be able to put that car into the field.
I would think for this restart, as we're checking timing and scoring now, that should put number 5, Ari Leyendijk, back in the lead, and Tony Stewart would be 2nd.
That's exactly right, Gary. So now Ari Leyendijk is taking advantage, certainly, of, but Ari didn't come in. That's one thing you're going to have to consider a little bit later. Tony Stewart has come in. He's topped off his tank. Ari's first scheduled stop will be coming up soon.
38 laps now complete under yellow.
Indy Racing League fans, here is your chance to be a part of the 1997 Indy 200 at Walt Disney World. It's the ultimate fairy tale. Exciting Indy Racing League action and Walt Disney World. Be there for the return of the Indy Racing League in sunny Orlando, Florida. Stay at one of Disney's magical resort hotels with free transportation to and from the race. Imagine joining thousands of race fans in the heart of Disney's 8 theme and water parks. You can have it all. January 25, 1997. The Indy 200 at Walt Disney World. Call 1-800-822-INDY for your ticket order form. 1-800-822-INDY.
When it's time to make choice for your family and your car. You don't make compromises when you know what the choices are. So take a stand for quality and safety's sake. Say Ray Vestas, the best in brakes. Say Ray Vestas, the best in brakes. Say Ray Vestas, the best in brakes.
From New Hampshire, this is the Indy Racing League. We welcome you back to New Hampshire. The green flag flies as they complete lap number 41 of the scheduled 200. Your leader now, car number 5, Arie Luyendyk. And running in second position now is Tony Stewart. Third is Buddy Lazier. And fourth is Michele Alboreto. Today's True Value 200 from the New Hampshire International Speedway is being heard on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network. We welcome to the network WIBC Radio in Indianapolis, Indiana, KSEC and KBLJ in Lamar, Colorado, and WZON in Bangor, Maine.
As we pick up the action, once again, Tony Stewart making his way to the front, but Gary, right behind him is Roberto Guerrero, near contact that time as Stewart made his way down the low side. It appeared to be once again the Buzz Calkins car, the number 12 machine, but look at Guerrero now right on his rear end.
And we also see back in the pit lane for a stop-and-go penalty, Mark Dismore. And Mark Dismore was penalized for running over an air hose, so he is back out on the racetrack now.
Roberto Guerrero continuing to run strong. He gets past Tony Stewart, and now Roberto Guerrero suddenly seems to be the fastest man on the racetrack as he starts to close on Richie Hearn, Gary.
Well, Guerrero made a pit stop. They made some changes, Vince Welch, to that car.
They sure did. They made some brake adjustments, and John Barnes said everything is under control. He's back out. They didn't feel like they lost much from it. Eddie Cheever, a rear caliper problem, but they took it off and had a little bit of a small fire in the back end of the car. They've replaced it. Cheever has gotten back into the car, so we expect to see him get back out.
Well, as we were hearing from Vince Welch, we see Tony Stewart go by Guerrero on the inside of turn 2 and start to pull away down the backstretch into turn 3.
By the way, when we mentioned that last pass, that was not for the lead. However, Guerrero running very strong, but Guerrero trying to unlap himself now and get back on the lead lap. Stewart has put Guerrero once again a lap down.
And Vince, I think you also had a chance to check in with Eddie Cheever, a lengthy pit stop. And as we go back to Vince, we'll say that Mark Dismore's back in the pit lane.
Dismore's coming by, and let me update you on Cheever. As I said, they had a rear caliper problem, and when they took off the back left tire, there was a small fire. They got it put out okay, changed the caliper, and Cheever has gotten back into the cockpit of the car. Obviously, he's missed quite a bit of action. On the other hand, they're doing a tire change on Mark Dismore up down on the south end, and they seem to be having some problems with him as well. They've got the right rear tire off, and it's a very lengthy pit stop for Dismore, and now, in fact, they're taking the back end apart, so it's a problem for Mark Dismore.
Well, let's go back up pit lane now to Mark Jaynes.
Well, we mentioned earlier Richie Hearn said he doesn't want to be leading at the start of the race. He wants to be leading when it's over. John Della Penna said that stop made just a couple of laps ago was a scheduled stop. They're very, very happy with their position, and everyone's focused in the Richie Hearn pit.
Well, back up in front, Mike King, it is Tony Stewart, and Tony Stewart has a straightaway advantage over second place now, Arie Luyendyk, and starts to open up that gap.
It's just unbelievable to see the way he is sticking on this racetrack down low. He is the only driver really that is seemingly has the ability to race below the yellow line, but we've seen him make passes up high, up low. For Tony Stewart, it appears that this is a three-groove racetrack, Gary.
Well, we talked to Tony on Friday. He said, I'm having some trouble getting back into the rhythm of an Indy car. I've not tested, not been in one since the Speedway. He has no problem finding the rhythm right now.
Now, that's for sure. And, of course, one of the other things that Tony likes to talk about is the amount of time that he spends behind the wheel, whether it be in the sprint car, in the Silver Crown car, in the midget, a super truck, Busch Grand National Series machine. He says that his desk, his office, is the cockpit, and that's where he likes to spend his time, and he has run 13 of the last 17 days.
Right now, 6 cars on the lead lap. Let's give a call to Scott Sharp, the co-champion of the inaugural Indy Racing League season. He is now up to 4th position, driving for A.J. Foyt in the Conseco entry. Now, once again, Tony Stewart is your leader. Ari Leyendijk is second. Buddy Lazier is now third, and Buddy is very, very pained because of that broken back. And let's go back and check in with the pit lane. Vince Welch, who is with John Menard.
John Menard, tell me about the problems with Mark Dismore.
Well, I think in all this running over the air hose and spinning around there, he took the clutch out of it because the clutch is out of the car.
He's back out though, but talk about the problems.
No, we're done. It's such that it isn't locked in; it's just locked out, and so we can't run anymore.
John Menard, a tough day for Mark Dismore.
And a very talented driver, Mark Dismore from Greenfield, Indiana, about 18 miles east of Indianapolis, a former World Karting Association champion, a former Formula Atlantic champion. And, of course, he ran with Team Menard at the Speedway this past May.
That's right, and he finished 19th and apparently impressed John Menard enough to catch on to get a full ride for this season. I know he's got to be disappointed because he was running fairly quickly. He had a good qualifying run. He had qualified 5th at better than 172 miles an hour and was, as we saw earlier, trying to play a little follow the leader with his teammate, Tony Stewart. So an unfortunate opening season debut there for Mark Dismore as we see him now begin to push his car back towards the garage area.
Well, once again, we had mentioned the top four. Scott Sharp now is 4th, 5th is Alvaretto, and in 6th position, Mike Groff in car number 10, and he is 1 lap down, as is car number 14, now number 4, Richie Hearn has just moved to 7th, but only the top 4 now remain on the lead lap, and that will change in just a few laps.
Eddie Cheever, who had gone 19 laps down earlier with a problem with that machine, was back in momentarily. They were making an adjustment, looked like the rear wing, but he is back on the track. But Eddie Cheever making his debut as a car owner. Well, it's not going to happen today. He is some 21 laps down.
We were talking yesterday with Johnny Rutherford, and John said apparently the last time Eddie hit the wall, he hit his head a little too hard to go out and buy a race car and become an owner. I mean, he's been a driver for somebody else for all these years in Formula One, and now at this level, he said, why go out and buy a race car?
And he says he's committed to making it work as far as being an Indy Racing League owner. Eddie Cheever, of course, campaigning for several years in Indianapolis-style cars, and now committed to being successful not only as a driver but a car owner.
Mark Jaynes, let's check in on what's happening with Ari Leyendijk.
Brad McCandless relayed what Ari had talked about throughout practice and qualifying. He just really has never felt comfortable with this track because of the other forms of racing going on here and the new pavement. He says the car's a little loose, but he's fighting it and fighting it pretty well. He's in 2nd place right now, so Brad McCandless says the problem's minor in the Ari Leyendijk stable.
Ari Leyendijk right now over a half lap back in 2nd position, but the car that's out in front, that neon yellow and kind of orange trim Glidden Menard of Tony Stewart, an easy car to spot anywhere on the racetrack, and he simply is on a rail out there. This right now is his race to win.
And, of course, the problem, and so many times when it comes to racing, if it's your race to win, it may be your race to lose. Tony Stewart does not want to push too much, that's for sure. He obviously has the best car on the track, and I believe Vince Welch is standing by with Tony's teammate.
Standing here with Mark Dismore, and Mark, I know how happy you were with this car this weekend. Got to be disappointed with the early exit.
Well, I mean, it's just too bad. I mean, Tony and me, you know, I mean, we came in together, and the guys didn't get his air hose back, and the air gun was out there, and I mean, I had to go. I mean, you know, I don't know what I was supposed to do, and I gassed the thing and I caught his air hose with my tire and it spun the car around, and I had to get it turned around, and when I had to dump the clutch, and I guess it burnt the clutch up, so it's too bad.
Disappointing finish for Mark Dismore. Back upstairs.
For years, people from other countries have looked at us here in the U.S. as being, well, a little different. They've accused us of being aggressive, brash, even a little cocky. So what does Oldsmobile do? They introduced the 32-valve, 250-horsepower, dual overhead cam V8 Aurora. The car road and track called as potent and refined as any Japanese or European offering. A car whose styling represents a radical departure from all those cookie-cutter, same old luxury performance sedans everyone else is building. With a body structure so rigid, so well crafted, it ranks among the world's best automobiles. Kind of makes you wonder what folks are going to think of us now. To form your own opinion, we invite you to take a test drive today at your authorized Oldsmobile Aurora retailer.
From New Hampshire, this is the Indy Racing League. This is Gary Lee live from Loudon, New Hampshire on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network. And right now, with 67 laps now complete, Tony Stewart has lapped the entire field minus second place, and he's about to go by on the inside. He tried to get by Buddy Lazier, who rides in second, and that is the battle right now to put Buddy a lap down. Today's Indy Racing League teams are competing for over $1 million in prize money, and a spin right in front of the leader.
And that's Buddy Lazier.
Buddy Lazier spun right in front of the leader. Yellow flag flies on the racetrack. Tony Stewart was trying to get by Buddy Lazier on the inside. Buddy spun right in front of the leader. Our concern right now is for Buddy Lazier. He is in great pain from that badly broken back he sustained in a practice crash at Phoenix back in April. A gutsy drive at the Indy 500. He remains in the cockpit. He has that specially built seat to provide support when he's in the cockpit. But we are now under yellow as we work on lap number 69.
Well, Buddy Lazier is in the car. He is moving, so we're going to have to check, obviously, on his condition once they get him out of the car, but there is a concern there. We see his fiancee, Kara Flynn, moving towards that end of the racetrack as she runs down just to check on the condition of Buddy Lazier. Now, what happened there? It was quite simple. Tony Stewart could run on the low side of the track, was going to make the move. Buddy, it looked to, at least appeared to us, that he may have gotten a bit loose, could not race down on that part of the racetrack. They may have made light contact, and Buddy could not control the car. Goes into the outside of turn 4 wall.
Well, once again, moving to the inside into turn 4, and there was no contact at all. Buddy was just down low in front of Tony and lost the rear end, spun to the right, and quick evasive action on the part of Tony, and the fact that the momentum and the centrifugal force took the car to the high side kept Tony from getting into Buddy Lazier. But once again, our concern is because of that impact against the outside wall, Buddy knew he was down there because going into the corner, he could see half of the car of Tony Stewart.
And there does appear to be some slight contact as they made their way through turn 3. It could be very well that they did make some contact, but certainly nothing major there. And it looks like Buddy Lazier may be out of the car.
Yeah, Buddy is standing outside the car right now talking to rescue workers. And now he is gingerly walking down the racetrack. Apparently there was some slight contact that turned the car, and under yellow now as we see your leader coming in. And it is a good view now and a good sight as we see Buddy Lazier walking to the ambulance. So he'll be taken to the hospital as it's wholesale pit stops, Vince.
Here's the leader, Tony Stewart, coming in. They're going to top off the fuel and put rubber on each of the corners, so new tires for Tony Stewart, and also topping off the fuel, Roberto Guerrero is coming in as well and ran over the foot of one of the crew members of Tony Stewart. Roberto Guerrero just barely caught the foot member of one of the crew members of Stewart, and he's telling the USAC man about it right now, and Larry Curry is down off the wall in the face of the USAC official, angry that Roberto Guerrero ran over the foot of one of the crew members.
Roberto Guerrero has the first pit at pit out, and then it's the Menard team. And, of course, one Menard team car has been retired, Mark Dismore, after losing the clutch. And so an altercation down there with a foot injury. And, Vince, you check and make sure that crew member is okay as the cleanup continues. Mark Jaynes also covering pit road for us.
Yeah, I just left the pit, and you know, it's so unfortunate for Buddy Lazier. His dad, Bob, and Ron Hemmelgarn had just given one another a high five because he had made up about a half a lap, and it took him about 2 laps to make a half lap down. He got down because of the yellow earlier. Everything was going well. We were just getting ready to get a word with his father, and then we got the call that there was the accident in 4.
Well, here's your rundown as far as your top 10 goes. This is at 60 laps. We are now scoring lap 71. Tony Stewart is the leader. Ari Leyendyke runs second. Buddy Lazier shown in third place after 60 laps. Of course, he is now out of the race. Scott Sharp fourth. Michele Alboreto is fifth. Mike Groff is sixth. Richie Hearn shown in seventh place at the 60-lap mark. Then you've got Davey Hamilton, Roberto Guerrero, and Buzz Calkins. That's the way the top 10 shook out at the 60-lap mark. But here, 11 laps later, obviously, we've got one other car out of the race. By the way, this will be our 6th car out of the race as they get set now to put Buddy Lazier's car on the hook and make the drive back to the garage area.
Vince, can you give us an update on the medical condition of that crew member that had the foot run over?
It was Bill Martin of Tony Stewart's crew changing the right front tire, and Roberto Guerrero came in and just cut it a little bit too tight and ran over the foot of Martin. Martin is okay physically, but right now Team Menard lodging some complaints with the USAC officials, and Larry Curry was very, very animated and down in the face of the USAC official, and right now he is being talked to about that very thing.
Well, of course, Bill Martin is the chief mechanic for Tony Stewart, a valuable member of Team Menard. As we look to our left down to turn 4, and we can see the purple and neon green number 91 being taken back to the garage area.
You know, an interesting story when you talk about the team colors. It's unfortunate we have to talk about it now as Buddy Lazier's car is taken back to the garage area. But, you know, so many teams try to become identifiable by their color schemes on their cars. You see it throughout racing. Ron Himmelgarn had for years looked for a color scheme that would make his car in some way unique. He had worked with graphic and color designers to try to come up with a combination that he liked, and he could find nothing that he thought would be distinctive. Well, he and his children were in the car one day, and Ron stopped by a McDonald's. They ordered a Happy Meal, and one of his children pulled the toy out of the Happy Meal that was there, and it was a jump rope that was purple with the neon-colored green handles. Ron looked at it and immediately said, "Those are the colors that we're going to use," and from there on out, all of Ron Himmelgarn's cars have been purple with the green accents.
Well, right now, track conditions not very favorable for racing because there's a lot of mop-up going on down in turn 4. A lot of the oil dry as the crew members of the safety crew are beginning to sweep that into the pavement and the surface here as we work on lap number 74. Once again, over $1.1 million in prize money up for grabs for today's Indy Racing League event. Over $85,000 has been posted by participating companies in the form of contingency and special incentive awards. The Indy Racing League would like to thank the following companies for their award sponsorships: Pennzoil, True Value Hardware, AC Delco and Delco Battery, Champion Brand Spark Plugs, Brake Parts Incorporated, Raybestos, Earl's Performance, STP, JC Carter Company, Bosch, American Dairy Association, Imco Gears, Midwest Rim and Wheel, and Kiko Coatings. So once again, under yellow now on lap 74, your leader, as he has been since very, very early on after starting 7th, is Tony Stewart. And right now, he certainly has been the class of the field. We've talked a lot about Tony, but what an incredible performance he has put together. You know, he's the trigger man in the cockpit, but you have to tip your hat to John Menard, Larry Curry, Bill Martin, and the crew for putting this race car together.
And I think right now the last thing that John Menard or Larry Curry want to exude is any over-enthusiasm or overconfidence because of the fact that they have had cars running up front in all the previous IRL events. So they don't have this one in the bag yet. Another 130 laps to go.
The legend begins. Legend begins as Major League Auto Racing comes to the entertainment capital of the world, and you're invited to the grand opening celebration. Be a part of auto racing history as Las Vegas Motor Speedway proudly presents its inaugural event, the Las Vegas 500, for the Indy Racing League on Sunday, September 15th. See the cars and stars of the all-new Indy Racing League at the world's premier motorsports entertainment complex. Tickets go on sale March 1st. Phone 702-644-4444 for ticket info. Sunday, September 15th. Don't miss the Indy Racing League at Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
When it's time to make the choice for your family and your car, you don't make compromises when you know what the choices are. So take a stand for quality and safety's sake. Say Raybestos, the best in brakes. Say Raybestos, the best in brakes. Say Raybestos, the best in brakes.
From New Hampshire, this is the Indy Racing League.
That is Salazar.
Back live from Loudon, New Hampshire. We're about to go back to green as they come down to complete lap number 77. 4-lap cars out in front of your leader, Tony Stewart. Eliseo Salazar is the first to get the green flag, and now Stewart has Ari Leyendyk right behind him. And Leyendyk trying to unlap himself. Stewart did not get a very good jump on that start. Now he has only 2-lap cars out in front as he goes down the backstretch into turn 3. So your leader once again on lap 78 is Tony Stewart. Today's live broadcast of the True Value 200 from New Hampshire International Speedway is brought to you by Aurora, proud to be the official pace car of the Indy Racing League. Ray Bestis, with safety there is no compromise. Insist on Ray Bestis, the best in brakes. And by True Value, the official hardware store of the Indy Racing League.
17 cars still on the racetrack. Six cars are out. Robbie Buell and Jim Guthrie in that early crash. Eddie Cheever has had his problems. He is back on the track, but he is now 22 laps down. Joe Gosick, Mark Dismore, and Buddy Lazier all out of the race. But right now, everyone trying to chase down Tony Stewart, and we saw from the get-go there as we took the green flag after the caution the difference between Tony Stewart's machine and Arie Luyendyk's machine. Arie tried to keep himself from being unlapped, but Tony was able to dive right underneath him and won and take the position away, quite simply because Arie is not running on the new pavement and apparently still is not comfortable about running down low.
Well, right now, only 2 cars remain on the lead lap. Tony Stewart continues to lead on lap 81. Second now is Richie Hearn, but right now, right behind Richie's car number 4 comes Tony Stewart to the inside into turn 3, and now Tony Stewart has the entire field a lap down.
And how quickly he closed on Richie Hearn. It was almost simple. He was able to gather him up in the back straight, make the pass very cleanly coming into 3, and Tony Stewart now sets sail to put more cars laps down. At lap 81, Tony Stewart owns an entire lap lead on the field.
I have a trivia question for all you racing historians. When was the last time that an IndyCar race was won on Sunday by a driver who won a United States Auto Club midget race the preceding Wednesday night? How many years you go back for that? 30 maybe?
Oh boy, at least, I would imagine.
I don't have the answer. I just know it's a long time ago. But of course, Tony did win at Indianapolis Raceway Park last Wednesday, blitzed the field, total domination.
Won 3 times that night, in fact. Won the Race of Champions, won a 12-lap qualifying race, then won the 40-lap Mel Kenyon Classic. And by the way, as he won the 12-lap qualifying race, he set a new track record for a 12-lap race.
And he said his luck was so good that night he was going to go to Vegas. We said, no, you have to go to New Hampshire before Vegas. That's in September.
Well, it's carried over, that's for sure. He told John Menard he felt like he was on a roll, and right now he is. He's rolling faster than anybody else as he puts Brad Murphy another lap down. Richie Hearn trying to stay, at least keep Tony within sight, but Tony continues to open up the lead on second place, Richie Hearn.
Well, of course, Tony Stewart, one of the drivers that tested at the new Las Vegas Motor Speedway, the jewel of the West, and for the speed was over 222 miles an hour, and we'll be there next month with our live qualifying wrap-up show on the 14th and live coverage of the 500K on the 15th of September. And right now, once again, ladies and gentlemen, what can we say? It's all Tony Stewart. Second place, a lap down is Richie Hearn. A lap down in third is Arie Luyendyk. A lap down in 4th position is car number 1, Scott Sharp. Then it's Michele Alboreto. In 6th position is Mike Groff. And 7th now is car number 7, 2 laps down. That is Eliseo Salazar. We pause 10 seconds for station identification. This is the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network. Gary Lee along with Mike King, Vince Welch, and Mark Jaynes live from Loudon, New Hampshire as we watch the True Value 200 unfold. Actually, this is the True Value Tony Stewart 200 so far.
Well, it sure is. You know, we've talked so much about the racing that occurred prior to this event today. Kind of unusual, Gary, in that we ran 2 feature events, nearly 100 laps of racing before the Indy Racing League event ever took the green flag. The U.S. Formula Ford 2000 National Championship Series ran earlier today. Bruno Bianchi from Quebec, the winner of that event. Then Northampton, Pennsylvania's Tony Hirschman won the NASCAR Featherlight Modified Series event that was run here just prior to the IRL event.
Well, we understand that Buddy Lazier is down in the immediate care center in the infield. He walked to the ambulance, and then climbed out of the ambulance and walked over. So we have Mark Jaynes down there, so hopefully very, very shortly we can go down and check with Mark. But first, let's go back and check with Vince regarding what has happened with the crew member, Bill Martin, on Tony Stewart's car.
I'm standing here with Larry Curry of Team Menard. And Larry, a crazy sequence of events involving that pit stop. What did you find out from USAC? Will Roberto Guerrero's team or your team be penalized?
I don't think so. I mean, you know, it's the heat of the emotion and stuff. But Roberto's been coming in all weekend. He's almost ran over my crew chief on more than one occasion, and we've been talking about it all weekend. And you know, then today in the race, when you got, you know, things going your way, and that happens. I mean, you know, I can't afford to lose my guy right now.
You were down voicing your displeasure to Jeff Van Treese of USAC, but still no penalty being handed out because of that?
I don't think so. It's just in the heat of competition.
It's been a good day on the track for Tony Stewart. Team Menard has had some interesting events in the pits, however.
Eliseo Salazar, who was 2 laps down in 7th position, is coasting now around turn 4 on the inside, headed for the pit lane.
Got to wonder, Gary, maybe if he's run out of fuel. I don't remember Salazar pitting last time, and now Brad Murphy's car is being taken back to the garage area as well. So the number 9 machine of Brad Murphy now shown out of the race as Salazar gets ready to make the stop and hit his pit stall.
Salazar driving one of 4 entries this weekend from Andy Evans' team Scandia. And he had been in 7th position before he made that pit stop and appeared to be coasting to a stop with the engine shut off. So once again, 92 laps now complete as we work lap 93, nearing the halfway point. A full lap lead for Tony Stewart. Tony, of course, last season became the first driver in the history of the United States Auto Club to win 3 championships in 1 year. He won the midget title, he won the Silver Crown title, and the sprint car title. Let's go back to Mark Jaynes.
Standing by with Buddy Lazier, what happened?
Well, it's just, yeah, I'm afraid I was popped in the back end, really, and we weren't racing with the car that hit me, you know, because we were biding ourselves. We want to be there at the end of the race. Really felt as though we had a good race car. It was surprisingly good. I think we could have gotten this one.
Everybody held their collective breaths. How's the back?
It's all right. I got real lucky on it this time. The impact didn't affect me whatsoever. The special seat that we have designed really worked. Dr. Brock Walker, that seat did its job.
Thank you very much, Buddy Lazier. Back up to you guys.
You know, I have to wonder now, once Tony Stewart went by Richie Hearn to place 2nd place, a lap down, Hearn has stayed within about 15, 18, 20 car lengths back and is running that same gap. That gap has been status quo for about 4 or 5 laps. So I'm wondering right now if they've told Tony, hey, you got the entire field in check, just cool it, take it easy, maintain a rhythm.
Well, you certainly want him to remain consistent at that point, that is for sure. By the way, Eliseo Salazar, apparently, Gary, he had run out of fuel. He's back up to speed and back on the track.
96 laps complete here at Loudon, New Hampshire, and Tony Stewart continues to dominate.
You think about your car a lot. You have grease under your fingernails. You can name all the NASCAR drivers and the cars they drive. You know rebuilding a 4-barrel isn't easy. It's fun. You can talk for hours about carburetors. You read about the auto show. You go to the auto show. You understand the difference between 30 weight and 40 weight. And you know where to go if you don't. True Value, official hardware store of NASCAR and garages everywhere. So hey, come into True Value and find everything you need for your car. Like Gojo Natural Citrus Hand Cleaner with pumice. It has a clean, fresh scent and really powers out grease and grime. USA Fashion Magic's Ratchet Tie Down secures cargo for transport on your trailer or truck with coated hooks that won't damage your vehicle's finish. The 8-gallon Rubbermaid Action Packer storage container features double wall construction and a sturdy hinge lid for a tight, water-resistant seal. True Value. Help is just around the corner.
From New Hampshire, this is the Indy Racing League. 93, track temperature 93. Gary Lee back live with you on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network from Loudon, New Hampshire, along with Mike King, Vince Welsh, and Mark Jaynes. And the puffy white clouds have thickened to a general overcast condition right now, and that is changing track conditions.
Yeah, Gary, we've talked about track conditions all day long, and certainly they have changed all day long. Right now with the overcast conditions, the track was 116 degrees at the start of this race. It has now cooled down 20 degrees. The track conditions 96 degrees, the track surface temperature, and so you know that probably translates into a much cooler air temperature as well.
The Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network welcomes WSSC in Sumter, South Carolina, WSRO in Santa Rosa, California, and make that KRLV in Las Vegas, side of the next Indy Racing League stop on the road to Indy at the brand new Las Vegas Motor Speedway, September 15th.
With 103 laps complete, here's the way they stand. Tony Stewart is the leader. In fact, he is a lap up on the entire field, and only 5 other cars remain 1 lap down. Richie Hearn runs second. Ari Leyendijk shown in third. Scott Sharp is fourth. Then Michele Alboreto, Mike Groff, Buzz Calkins, Davey Hamilton, Roberto Guerrero, and Marco Greco who, by the way, has more laps race time on this track than anybody else in the field. He is currently 10th. So that's the way they stand. We are scoring lap 105 of 200 here at the New Hampshire International Speedway.
Well, although things may be cooling down as far as track temperature, one thing that's not cooling down is that car-driver combination of that neon yellow and orange Glidden Menard number 2. Tony Stewart continues to drive like he's on a rail. Did not qualify all that well, but we heard Larry Curry say early on, we didn't set these cars up this weekend to qualify. We set them up to race. Now keep in mind, he started 7th on the grid at Orlando at Disney World back in January and finished 2nd, a very close second, only a second behind Buzz Calkins. So today he also starts 7th and looks like he well could be on his way to victory.
John Menard looking for his first ever win in Indianapolis car competition. You know they have got to be thrilled down there with the way Tony is running. But certainly, Gary, I've got to wonder at what point they begin their early celebration, if in fact you can ever do that in racing. We have seen so many times that small parts can cost you right at the very end of the race. So Larry Curry and John Menard, while they may be patting each other on the back right now, I think they'll probably avoid any kind of pre-celebration until the car is safely tucked in victory lane.
It ain't over till it's over.
Well, that's the truth.
Was a comment made by a great baseball player one time, and obviously they'll not celebrate until it's over. We saw what happened at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway back in May during the Indy 500 because Tony early on had them all covered but had a mechanical problem. The engine failed and he came in. A shorter race today. Although temperatures now dropping off a little bit at race time, the temperature was in the mid-80s with 116-degree track temperature. We saw higher temperatures than that during May at Indianapolis.
Well, keep in mind, too, that John Menard's Menard V6, of course, it's the retooled Buick engine. He picked up the program when Buick decided to leave motorsports as far as Indianapolis-type racing. That car has never, rather that engine has not visited victory lane with the Menard nameplate on it. With just one race remaining for that engine to run, John Menard and his entire team would certainly love to see that one take at least one checkered flag before it's retired.
Well, of course, we move on from this race to the new Las Vegas Speedway next month. And then starting in January at Walt Disney World, we will see the new specifications for chassis and engines.
That's exactly right. The Dallara and G-Force chassis will be used. And, of course, the Infinity engine that is going to be produced by Nissan and the Aurora engine, which will be produced by Oldsmobile, will be the engine chassis combinations that we'll see, and it's going to make things very interesting, and it certainly, Gary, will level the playing field, and many new teams are waiting until those new cars and engines are available before they come into the series.
Stan Waddles out of Stuart, Florida now making a pit stop in car number 30. He, of course, is back in competition after suffering a broken neck in a testing crash at Phoenix back in March, so we're glad to see Stan Waddles back in. Is not having a very good ride today after making numerous pit stops.
Gary, checking the positions of your favorite drivers here today. Tony Stewart is the leader. Richie Hearn. These are the standings after 100 laps complete. We are scoring lap 112 right now, but here's a full field rundown. Tony Stewart, your leader. Richie Hearn runs second. Ari Lyondike runs third. Then Scott Sharp, Michele Alboreto, Mike Groff, Buzz Calkins is shown in seventh. Then Davey Hamilton, Marco Greco, and Roberto Guerrero in 10th. John Paul Jr. is 11th. Stefan Gregoire is 12th. And Stan Waddles in 13th position. Dave Kudrave in 14th. Eliseo Salazar, who ran out of fuel earlier and is back in the race. Tyce Carlson, Brad Murphy, Eddie Cheever, Buddy Lazier, Mark Dismore, Joe Gosick, Robbie Buell, and Jim Guthrie. Right now we're shown with 6 cars out of the race. The cars of Murphy, Lazier, Dismore, Gosick, Robbie Buell, and Jim Guthrie.
You mentioned Tyce Carlson, the only rookie in the race. On Friday after practice, Johnny Rutherford, who is the chairman of special projects and a guy really in charge of the ROP program for the Indy Racing League, walked up to Tyce and said, I don't want you to do any more than what you're doing right now. Get the car in the show tomorrow and run the distance. Keep your nose clean on race day and get experience. Laps in the cockpit, and Tyce Carlson is doing exactly that.
Gary, I tell you, right now it has really grown quite dark here as the overcast continues to increase, and you've got to wonder now if rain may not be in the area. Certainly we see some blue skies in the distance off to our east, but right now it is very, very different as far as the weather conditions from what we saw at the beginning of this race.
Well, of course, as we checked the weather forecast earlier in the day, there was no threat of rain. In fact, we had beautiful blue skies with, as we indicated, some very light puffy white clouds. It was a beautiful day earlier, but certainly we have the overcast skies up on us right now. That may be the advantage of the race drivers, though, in changing this racetrack.
But the only place it's not gloomy is down there at the west end of the pit area, because Team Menard enjoying this huge lead. But you know, Gary, I'm sure it's tempered a little bit by what happened to Mark Dismore. The bottom line is, you heard Mark Dismore earlier say, hey, the air hose that I ran over was out there. What was I supposed to do? Obviously, it's going to be a bit of a sweet and sour day because Dismore felt like he had a pretty good car.
Well, let's update the commentary earlier. On that restart, once Tony Stewart got by Richie Hearn to put Richie a lap down, Hearn was staying right with him. And I alluded to perhaps they told Stewart, look, you got the field covered, take it easy. But right now, he has moved out to about a half lap advantage. It is a lap and a half now that he has on second place, Hearn. So Hearn rides a lap down in second, Lyondike a lap down in third, and Scott Sharp a lap down in fourth.
I'm amazed at how well Tony Stewart is running. We saw so many cars that were so close here yesterday afternoon on full tank testing, and certainly Tony Stewart and Richie Hearn were the two fastest, but I don't think any of us expected Tony Stewart, who is now, of course, in his second year as a member of the Indy Racing League, to pull away and dominate a race like this. He has 80 laps remaining before he visits victory lane for the first time.
For those who have never experienced the dizzying excitement of the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, now you can. Because on January 19th, 1997, these super trucks stop at Walt Disney World. But you'd better hurry. Tickets are going fast. Call 1-800-822-INDY to reserve yours. That's 1-800-822-INDY. Chevy Truck presents the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series at Walt Disney World Speedway. These guys really haul.
Why do men race? Is it the thrill of the competition or the sudden rush of adrenaline? Is it to hear the roar of the crowd or to test the laws of gravity? Why do men race? Maybe it's to win at Indianapolis. Yeah, that's it. That's why men race. Preserving auto racing's oval track tradition, the Indy Racing League.
From New Hampshire, this is the Indy Racing League. It is raining in Loudon, New Hampshire. The red flag has just been displayed. The track is wet, a heavy downpour right now. In fact, there are some blue skies in behind us, but right over the speedway is a dark cloud. It is opened up. We ran about 2 laps under yellow. Then it really cut loose. The fans started to run for cover, and the race cars are headed for the tarps and cover of the pit lane as we are joined by the Executive Vice President of the Indy Racing League, Jaynes, and this is not exactly what we wanted to see this afternoon.
No, not at all. This is part of racing, though. Sometimes this happens. At least we got 124, 125 laps in for the fans, and it's actually blue around, so maybe we'll get it cleared up.
Your thoughts so far on the first Indy Racing League season that concluded with this year's Indianapolis 500?
Well, it's been obviously very exciting for all of us that are a part of it, and I think the fans are really warming to a lot of the new race drivers that we're showcasing now. Tony Stewart, of course, has been most awesome in his first run here at New Hampshire.
Kerry, I know the opportunity to see a guy like Tony Stewart do what he is doing here today doesn't surprise you in the least. In fact, you were one of the guys who lobbied for him to be a member of this Indy Racing League, and you were one of the principals responsible for him getting his ride.
Well, we worked hard at it. I knew that Tony's a good race driver. There's a lot of good race drivers out in America driving sprints and midgets and Formula Atlantics and everything all across the country. And we saw some modified drivers who were pretty darn good today, too, in F2000s. But I knew Tony was a good race driver. I watched him in our own promotion out at Turkey Night out in Bakersfield last year. And he came to me right after that race and asked if there was any chance for him to run in the IRL. And I said, well, I'll sure put your name in the hat. And that's what we did. And John Menard was good enough to give him a chance. And we've seen just how good a race driver he is. A lot of people, might say, well, he's got a lot of boost or something. But, there's a number of Buicks out there. And, in fact, his teammate was there who was doing a great job. But Tony was lapping everybody out there, not just the other cars, but his own teammates.
And it's always so exciting, Kerry, to go to new racing venues. We were down in Orlando in January at Walt Disney World. We go back this coming January, and now next month to the brand new, beautiful, palatial Las Vegas Speedway.
Yeah, Las Vegas, I was just up there a few weeks ago, and that's something that the fans will just marvel over. It's going to be probably one of the most beautiful tracks that's ever been built in this country. But we're at a very beautiful place now. I'm just looking out over here and seeing the beautiful green trees and hills and mountains of New Hampshire. And this is great to come up here too. The Bears have made this place a real showcase. The fans have run for cover, but all they had to do is go right underneath the grandstand. There's picnic tables under here, and there's places to buy a beer or a hot dog, and so this is a beautiful, beautiful facility as well. But we're looking forward to Las Vegas on September 15th.
We'll let the fans know that it looks like the shower is just about past. In fact, we're seeing a little bit of sunshine peek out to our east, and it may not be very long before we're back racing again. Kerry, a unique season for the Indy Racing League teams because they will start this season with one setup, and they will go to brand new cars and chassis for the first race of 1997, which of course is part of the same season. But a lot of work to be done by these teams between now and December.
Yeah, highly unusual, of course, to change chassis in the middle of a year, so to speak. But we did our best to get our new chassis manufacturers, G-Force over in England, Dallara in Italy, and of course Riley and Scott right in Indianapolis, who are building chassis for us too. And theirs will come on right after the Indy 500 of 97. But we think we want to bring the new chassis out as quickly as we can. And so we went ahead and decided to bring them right after the first of the year for our Orlando race in January. And we also have new engines coming, and it takes a while to get those together.
Well, one thing's for sure, Indy Racing League officials have been busy. Just a couple of weeks ago, the announcement that Pikes Peak International Raceway will come aboard a beautiful new facility that's located there just outside of Colorado Springs for a race that will be run the end of June.
Yes, I was just also there a couple weeks ago, saw their progression. C.C. Myers is building an incredible racetrack there. This is so exciting to have new venues, as Gary was talking about. Colorado Springs is beautiful. That's going to be tied to the Pikes Peak Hill Climb, which is July 4th, and will be just before that, so it's going to be great.
Just to update the weather situation right now here outside Loudon, New Hampshire, it appears that brief shower has moved on by, and right now we have a number of emergency vehicles, some wreckers, some ambulances, some flatbeds out there trying to dry the track. So a number of the drivers remain in their cockpits with crew members holding the umbrellas over top. Let's mention that the Brakes Parts Incorporated and the Raybestos brand of brakes is an official sponsor of the Indy Racing League, and they have initiated a season-long award sponsorship. In fact, Raybestos will pay $10,000 in prize money to the highest finishing rookie in each of the Indy Racing League events. And, of course, we'll have a chance, hopefully, a bit later to talk to Tice Carlson, because he is the only rookie in this race this afternoon.
That's right. And Kerry, also this race, the implementation of the PPG Pole Award, $10,000 to Richie Hearn. And if he can repeat that feat coming up at Las Vegas, he'll win an extra $10,000 plus a $10,000 bonus.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Richie Hearn was the fastest guy there in Las Vegas during the test session by several miles an hour. They have the right setup for Las Vegas. He was very fast, 222 miles an hour, I think it was. It was just
not
amazing.
Bad on a mile and a half.
Yeah, I was astounded how quick they went. But it's so great to have PPG with us. Their name is synonymous with IndyCar racing and the Indy 500. They've been so great. They put up $100,000 at the Indy 500 for that pole, and $10,000 went to Richie yesterday, and we're sure glad PPG is back.
And you continue to tweak the point system. 2 points go to Richie for winning the pole yesterday, and it looks like Tony Stewart will take home an extra point for leading the most laps.
Yes, we're because it's a new league, we have to look very carefully about points and rules and all that, and we have adjusted that to give some some credence and to help the people who work so hard to get on the pole. So they will get points as some other people do in other leagues.
To recapitulate just a bit, we have stopped the race. We're under red after 125 laps, 75 laps to go, and we see that the color of the racetrack is now beginning to change.
Yeah.
So we see that it is starting to dry out.
Definitely drying.
Most of the drivers have stayed in their cars. One driver that climbed out was Tony Stewart. Tony's used to those shorter midget and sprint and Silver Crown races, and he wanted to climb out. Speaking of the Silver Crown race, of course, this is the True Value 200. True Value and Dan Cotter and company, sponsors of the Silver Crown Series with the United States Auto Club, and they scheduled the Tony Bettenhausen 100 yesterday at the Illinois Springfield Mile, part of the Illinois State Fair, and unfortunately Mother Nature said, I don't think you're going to race today, so they have right now rescheduled the Tony Bettenhausen 100 for Saturday, September 14th at Springfield, Illinois. So once again, we remain under a red flag condition for a brief, very brief, unfortunately, shower. And now all the race fans that scattered for cover under the grandstand have now come back to take a position along the front stretch. And they're looking across the front straightaway to the pit lane to see what activity might be going on, what they might be able to see, and also watch all the emergency crews drive down the front stretch. As you know, you've been in racing really, Kerry, all of your life. Your dad, the legendary J.C. Agajanian, and this is part of racing. We have to live with it.
Yeah, well, it's always happened. We're lucky that it's a paved track and not a dirt track. I think as I look down here at Tony Stewart, they were working on his car, and his car was popping.
Well, Tony is outside the car, and I think, Vince, you're down there with him.
Tony Stewart just looked up to the heavens and said, please don't mess with me today. They really want this victory, and Tony Stewart has been the class of the field so far. Tony, talk to us a little bit about how things have gone for you over the first 125 laps. You certainly seem to have the best car, that's for sure.
Well, with the exception of Buddy Lazier driving over the top of our front wing, everything's went fairly smooth. I mean, we had a game plan going into the race, and we've stuck to it. So, you know, we just got to ride it out and hope that everything we do from here on out is going to be just as good as what we've done up to this point.
You guys have concentrated on the race from the moment you unloaded the truck this weekend, and it seems to be paying off. Larry Curry told me before the race today that you guys can go down low on the track, and that's going to be the difference.
Well, we hope so. You know, there's a lot of guys that have switched and moved down to the bottom of the racetrack, and it seems to have helped some of their cars. But we've been down there the whole weekend where everybody else has been above the new pavement. So, you know, we got our car dialed in where we wanted to run, and it's given us a whole different line compared to everyone else.
Are you glad that you have this opportunity to maybe break and catch your breath, get a drink of water, or what would you have preferred to just stay out on the track and in the groove?
Well, obviously you'd rather stay out. You know, you're in a rhythm and you're in a groove, and you're just out there doing your thing, and you feel at home. And this is kind of a distraction, but you know, you just gotta get in the frame of mind to go out and do exactly what you did before the rain came. So I don't think it's going to be a big distraction. But if I had my preferences, I would rather it stayed green.
You mentioned there for just a moment about Buddy Lazier tapping the front end of your car. There's been some incidents out on the track today. Have you been close any other time?
That seems to be the only one that I've come close to. I got real close to the back of Ari Leyendijk's car early in the race and just went in a little deeper than what I thought he did, and it was my fault. So, you know, I just had to start giving myself room again. Sometimes I drive these things in behind a guy like I'm in a midget or sprint car, and I think I can get it stopped. So, you know, I just got to get back in race mode with these things. When you don't race since May, it's hard to kind of get back in the groove of racing with these cars.
Tony Stewart waiting on the track to dry. He is far and away the leader today.
Yeah, we remain under red for wet conditions, but right now the sun again is shining to the west.
When it's time to make the choice for your family and your car, you don't make compromises when you know what the choices are. So take a stand for quality and safety's sake. Say Ray Bestis, the best in brakes. Say Ray Bestis, the best in brakes. Say Ray Bestis, the best in brakes.
Indy Racing League fans, here is your chance to be a part of the 1997 Indy 200 at Walt Disney World. It's the ultimate fairy tale. Exciting Indy Racing League action and Walt Disney World. Be there for the return of the Indy Racing League in sunny Orlando, Florida. Stay at one of Disney's magical resort hotels with free transportation to and from the race. Imagine joining thousands of race fans in the heart of Disney's 8 theme and water parks. You can have it all. January 25, 1997. The Indy 200 at Walt Disney World. Call 1-800-822-INDY for your ticket order form. 1-800-822-INDY.
From New Hampshire, this is the Indy Racing League. Indy, Indianapolis 500, IndyCar, and the Indy Racing League are trademarks owned and licensed by the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Corporation. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or the use of information and descriptions contained in this broadcast without the written consent of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network is prohibited. Gary Lee along with Mike King, Vince Welch, Mark Jaynes, live from Loudon, New Hampshire. We have been joined here in the broadcast booth under this red flag condition by Kerry Agajanian, who's the Executive Vice President of the Indy Racing League. And we talked about some of the new venues, and obviously we're always eager because we know some other announcements are coming up about some other venues in the future.
Well, you're not going to be able to wrangle that out of me just that way.
Now.
It's a big secret right now, but there are more venues coming. There isn't any question, and hopefully within the next month, I think we're going to announce at least probably 2 more races.
Gary, right now the 96-97 season consists of 5 stops. Of course, here Las Vegas, then we go back to Orlando, to Phoenix, and wrap it up at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Then, of course, we start looking at the 97-98 season where we hear rumors, everything from maybe 7 to 9 venues. Where do you see the series reaching a maximum? Where do you see this being comfortable with the number of events that you would like to remain at for eternity, I guess?
Well, it won't be eternity because nothing is the same in racing, but I think what we're really looking at is at a best case scenario is typically 12 to 15 races in a good series. So I think that's what we're shooting for. But you look at other series, if they're successful, you could have 30 races. Now that means we'd have to split them in 2 maybe. I'm not sure what we do, but if the people across the United States want IndyCar racing, we're going to give it to them.
A lot of activity on the racetrack as well as in pit lane because these guys, the crew members, are working on the cars, Mark.
AJ Foyt with me, Scott Sharp. I guess USAC, AJ, you've been in conversation with USAC. They're trying to get their storing straightened out. It doesn't look quite the way AJ Foyt would like for it to look right now.
Well, it's all screwed up. It's nothing new, but now actually where he was running fourth, and then when the 4-car come in, then that moved us up. He went through the pits, but we passed him, and then I went up there and looked like they moved us back another lap in position, but they'll get it straightened out. It's just one of them deals.
Running pretty well so far.
Yeah, we're doing all right. We're just trying to keep our nose clean and run towards the end of the race. It's still 75 miles to go, and we'll get there.
AJ, we appreciate it. Now, we checked with USAC as to what they could or could not do during the red flag stop, and USAC told us they can tweak the engine. They can make wing adjustments. They can do a full load of fuel, or they can change all 4 tires. So whatever they need to do, they can do during a red flag stop. Vince Welch?
That's right, standing down with Mike Groff. Mike started the race at 9th, and right now he's running in the top 5. We can get in here with Mike just a moment, and he's talking some strategy with some team members and talking about some possible adjustments that they may be making with the car. As we said, Mike started 9th and is currently in 4th position, and we'll throw back upstairs until Mike finishes up.
Well, so really this is a 2 pit stop race, and with this red flag because of weather, this will be it for the pit stop, I would think, for these guys. They should be able to squeeze out, I think, maybe with 1 more yellow without making a stop late. It could, however, depending on the fuel consumption, if they try to go the distance now, it may stop and go, splash and go late in the race.
Well, we saw Eliseo Salazar run out of fuel a little bit earlier trying to stretch it, so it will be interesting to see what happens. Now Vince Welch has been able to catch up with Mike Groff.
Mike standing here talking a little bit of strategy and some of the things you might be doing over the last 75 laps.
Well, we're going to make a few changes and go out for a 75-lap trophy dash, basically. I know Stewart's pretty hooked up right now, but I think he's pretty maxed out on setup, and I think there's a few things that we can change to hopefully give us a shot at chasing him down in that time.
How about the first 125 laps? Obviously, there have been a few incidents. Have you had any close calls?
No close calls at all, really. The only thing that was a little bit unfortunate is we got down a lap right at the beginning. We had a pretty loose car right on the first stint, but we started working with it a little bit. It started coming to us, and now we're in a little bit of a too tight condition with some of the changes we made. So I think going into this last run, we know exactly what we want to do, and we're going to do it. And I hope it puts us where we want to be.
Mike Groff looking forward to that 75-lap trophy dash, as he says. Let's go up the pit lane to Mark Jaynes.
We check in now with John Della Penna. So far in the race, John, we're looking at a red flag situation. Your conversations with Richie, how's he feel about the car?
Well, we started out with a real loose condition. Our tires from qualifying, I guess, had too much of too big a stagger, so we were able to correct that. That's why we pitted so early, and after that, the car was coming to us, and we felt pretty good. I mean, car was running good. We were running competitive with everybody else, basically first in class. I mean, Tony just took off and left us, but you know, we'll just have to see what happens. You know, I mean, there's still 70, 80 laps to run, so we'll see what we can do.
With all the forms of racing, this track has been changing all throughout the weekend. What can Mother Nature do now to change this track?
I'm not sure. If it doesn't snow, that'd be about the only thing that would surprise me right now.
John Della Penna, thank you very much. Richie Hearn in the pits right now, and they're hoping to make a good run. Probably one more stop, although, as Gary, as you said earlier, they may be able to finish without stopping again the rest of the way.
If you have just joined this broadcast, the reason we're not talking about racing is because Mother Nature provided us with a very brief, but very heavy shower that just dampened everything, but not the spirits. The fans took off for cover under the grandstand. The red flag was displayed. The cars came in. The tarps came out. Right now, the sun is back out. We still have a number of vehicles on the racetrack drawing the track, including a jet dryer. So we will be able to continue this race.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be long, Gary, because as we speak, the sun just continues to get brighter. Kerry Akajanian, Executive Vice President of USAC, is with us here in the booth as well. And Kerry, a few minutes ago, we talked about the coming venues for the 97-98 schedule and those we may see in the future. But, you know, when Orlando rolls around, we will very likely see several new teams emerge. There are many drivers and many owner combinations that are being talked about that, quite frankly, said, well, it's very difficult to find equipment right now. We're going to wait until the new chassis, new engines are available, so we're on a level playing field with everyone else rather than get equipment that's going to be obsoleted in two events.
Well, Mike, that's a good point. And we started 23 cars today. We should have been 24. We had a problem with one car. But it is hard for somebody to go out and invest in equipment that will be obsolete at the end of this year and after only one more race. So we expected it to get a little bit thin toward the end. But, you know, starting more than 20 cars is good at this point. I know we will have well, we've already sold 30 chassis with deposits for the first of the year. So I think we will have more than full fields in 97. But you're right, it is hard for people to decide to go out and invest in equipment that will be obsoleted.
And those new chassis will become available here very soon, in about 6 weeks or so, 7 weeks. And the new chassis and engine combinations, I'm sure teams are eagerly awaiting to begin testing.
We think that a lot of them will have their cars by October with the engines. We think we will have actually both cars available to look at in September 15th at the Las Vegas race. That's our goal, and the chassis manufacturers have said they think they can meet that. So it will be exciting to see the new car and the new engine.
Of course, if you're a race fan, the Agajanian name is magic. We go back to 1952 when your dad, J.C. Agajanian, was the winning car owner at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Troy Ruttman drove the old upright to victory, and what a career he had as a promoter, as a car owner. Ascot Park obviously was legendary, and I think back to when it closed in 1990. We stayed there until like 3 o'clock in the morning. It was like losing an old friend.
Yeah, it was one of the saddest days of my life, of course, and a lot of people, not just ourselves. Our family was involved in that since it opened for 35 years. But, you know, things change in racing, and now we're seeing a new era, and we're seeing some great new things in racing. And I know I remember you were there that night. It was something that we'll never forget. It was like losing an old friend.
Well, Kerry, we thank you for stopping by and joining us here during this red light. Now, I want you to know that we asked him to come in before the rain started to fall. So this was not just cover for Kerry Agajanian, the Executive Vice President of the Indy Racing League. You know, some guys handle this situation in a different, relaxed manner. Some guys are uptight. It breaks the rhythm. One driver may be taking a nap in the cockpit, Vince.
Ari Leyendijk, the veteran in him, as most drivers have gotten out of the cockpit, Ari Leyendijk is sitting in the car, and he's just resting comfortably with his eyes closed. The Ari Leyendijk team has been chasing a push most of the day, so they're taking this rain delay as an opportunity to make a wing adjustment and change some tire pressure. But Ari Leyendijk seems to be taking advantage of the opportunity just to rest.
We only have one rookie in the race. That is Tice Carlson, and Mark Jaynes is down in his pit area.
The lone rookie, Tice Carlson, making some adjustments to the car at this point.
Yeah, at the start of the race, the engine just went flat. We came in and changed all the electronics, and we lost quite a few laps there, I think like 8 or 9. They're checking the injector now to make sure that it's getting the proper fuel. Car's handling great. It's just it'll only go 158 miles per hour down the straightaway. So that's the only place that we're really off at.
So what was toughest when the green flag dropped? Pinching yourself, realizing that you were making your first IRL start, or realizing that you had a job to do?
Actually, the toughest thing was trying to catch back up with the field, because everything just, I got on the throttle and it just kind of fell on its face. We don't know if it's fuel or electrical. And then as the laps went on, I guess we're going slow enough that we kept the tires underneath us, but everybody else started slowing down. So then we were able to start passing cars. But yeah, that was the toughest thing, was getting back up and trying to pass somebody.
Well, Tice Carlson is in the pits right now, sitting comfortably. He's waiting to get this race back underway. Vince?
Standing here with Eddie Cheever, and it's been a frustrating day for Eddie. He had some car problems earlier, and he's quite a way off the pace, but you were back in the car, and that's the most important.
Absolutely. It's the first race for us. We qualified well. Unfortunately, we didn't get to go out with full tanks yesterday after practice, so we have a gremlin that crept its way into the back of the car. I had a rear brake failure, and that ain't pretty around here. So we came in, we had a little bit of a fire problem. The mechanics fixed it. We got back out there again, and obviously I'm being very careful with the car because I don't want to get anybody's way, and I have a brake problem. So we're just running to the finish, picking up some miles. Really glad to be here. Happy with our association with First Plus, and get this one done and get on to Las Vegas, where this Menard engine, as we all know in those fast speedways, is like a rocket ship. Right now, we have the steel engine in the back and not the aluminum one, so it's kind of heavy, and you know, not getting out with full tanks, a brand new team. First time we ran the car was here. It's been a fun weekend.
Has it been more challenging? I'm sure it has been, now in the dual role of owner and driver.
I have great people with me. Unlike a lot of team owners that I have been with, I believe in delegating, and you can delegate if you find the right people. And we are thankful for Menard for giving us the opportunity to run this car for this race and the next race. And without his help and Menard's help, it wouldn't have been possible. But your role does change a little bit. You spend a little bit more time on detail. You're more involved in the decisions that you're taking. But if you hire good people and you have good people working with you, if you don't listen to them, then you shouldn't be paying them.
Talk about the first 125 laps, those that you were out there, and the type of racing that's going on.
I was really struggling along without any brakes. I'm just trying. It reminds me of a race I saw Danny Sullivan do about four or 5 years ago when he had a real big problem, and I'm just trying to stay everybody's way. We made some changes in the car, and I hope we fix the brakes so we can get back onto the pace. But we're learning. We're picking a lot of information. It looks like a very exciting race, especially from my point of view, because I see him buzzing by me in the mirrors, and I'm just trying not to get anybody's way. But the IRL is a fantastic category of racing. It has a very strong identity, and we are very proud to be here, and we're looking forward to a whole bunch of races, oval races in America, and I think it'll grow as it goes along.
Thank you, Eddie. Eddie Cheever in his first race, the dual position of owner-driver.
Did I hear him say aluminium?
I believe you did.
He spent too long in Europe. You know, he's addressing the brake issue. This track has very long straightaways, 1,500 feet long, very tight turns. These guys are on the brakes very hard entering the corner.
In fact, Richie Hearn, who of course has somewhat of a background in road racing, says that it's very much like road racing in the entrance of turns 1 and turns 3, in that you really have to get on the brake hard and make a very, very tight turn. And of course, when you're not using all the racetrack, it makes it all the worse.
We can see that the racing groove is now gray. Inside along the front straightaway, it's very, very dark, the pavement, but up in the racing groove, very gray. It looks like we will be able to, in not too long a fashion, get this race back underway.
While developing the engine for the Aurora, we wanted to make sure it could stand up to just about anything. So we ran the 32-valve, 250-horsepower dual overhead cam V8, the equivalent of 31 consecutive Indy 500s. That's over 15,000 miles. And while we're happy to report that the engine held up quite nicely, thank you, the same cannot be said of 47 speed and endurance records, including 2 world records previously held by Mercedes-Benz. So what did we take away from all this? Well, after 7 straight days and nights through wind, rain, and steadily falling temperatures, one thing became obvious. When you're racing into the future, you're bound to shatter a few records, not to mention a few egos along the way. To discover for yourself what makes the Aurora so unique, we invite you to take a test drive today at your authorized Oldsmobile Aurora retailer.
From New Hampshire, this is the Indy Racing League. Back back live from Loudon, New Hampshire, the New Hampshire International Speedway. We remain under red because of wet track conditions from a passing shower, but the sun is now beginning to shine to our backside, to the west, and the track indeed is drying out. Well, fans, remember, the True Value 200 is only the first stop on the road to the 1997 Indianapolis 500. So join us here on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network for the first running of the Las Vegas 500K at the brand new Las Vegas Motor Speedway on Sunday, September 15th. The road to Indy travels on through the west as the Indy Racing League makes a stop at the Jewel of the Desert in Las Vegas. So join us here on many of these same stations for the Las Vegas 500K, September the 15th.
Gary, some of the emergency vehicles now beginning to make passes through the pit lane, and it appears that drivers now are beginning to once again get the helmets back on. The helmet socks are going on, and all the headset apparatus that they have to wear in the car. So it should be just moments before we hear the engines fire once again. Interesting, we go back to the interview we heard Vince Welch conduct with Eddie Cheever just a couple of moments ago. He talked about the steel block engine that they're running in his car. The car that they got from Menard is the same car that he campaigned at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway during the month of May. Now, it's interesting he talks about the steel block because those were the same engines that Team Menard campaigned used during the month of May at Indianapolis. However, they had developed an aluminum block which saves them some 70 pounds in each of the cars, which they had developed and hoped that they would be able to use at the Speedway. There were some bugs. They were not able to do that, and they put those aluminum blocks on the shelf, went back to the older model, older style block. Well, now the aluminum blocks have been refined a bit. They are in the cars of Mark Dismore and Tony Stewart here today. Stewart obviously using the advantage of that aluminum block to his advantage this afternoon.
Well, the familiar black and orange number 14, owned by the legendary A.J. Foyt, driven today by Davey Hamilton, now back in 9th position. Davey was seated on the left upright, the upper A-arm of the suspension system on that race car, and he's standing by with Mark Jaynes.
Well, you sold my intro line, Gary, with that familiar black number 14. Davey, you guys would just as soon get this 200 miles over.
Absolutely. You know, it's a little frustrating when the rain comes, and you know, our car early was fantastic. It really worked good. We came up in position real well up to 7th from 18th or 17th, wherever I started. So we're real excited about getting back in and getting going. Unfortunately, we got a little loose that last session after the last pit stop, but we're looking forward to try to crawling back up towards the front.
I guess fear of the unknown as you go back out, because you know what Mother Nature, or maybe you don't know what Mother Nature can do to a course.
Absolutely. You know, the track has changed so drastically all weekend that it's going to be another crapshoot. It was the start of this race. We didn't know what the cars were going to do. It was just a guessing game, and that's the first time in a long time with any cars we've had to do that. And but I'll tell you what, it's great to be at the True Value 200, and it's good to have Power Team, a new sponsor, on board with us, and trying to have a good showing for him.
You think anybody has anything for Tony Stewart?
Well, it sure doesn't look that way, man. Every time he's put a couple laps on me, unfortunately, and both times he looks extremely strong. You know, the car's hooked up right on the bottom, where most guys are having to let the car float up just a little bit, and he looks awful strong. He's doing a good job.
Best of luck the rest of the way. Davey Hamilton currently running 10th.
Well, let's go back to pit lane. Vince Welch, I understand that the scoring pylon is showing 125 laps in, but officially we've completed 123.
Just talking to officials from USAC, and they say that when they go back out, when the cars do go back out on the track, they will be on lap 123. They'll run 2 laps of yellow and then come through for the green flag officially on lap 126. They will also start in order of track position, not necessarily in the number of position that they are on the scoring pylon. So they are sorting that out as well, trying to figure out where everyone was on the track when they brought them in because of the rain delay. But we expect them back on the track very shortly as the drivers are putting their helmets back on and preparing to climb in the car.
Well, that track jet dryer continues very slowly on the high side against the outside concrete wall on the backstretch. And as you alluded to earlier, Mike King, many of these emergency vehicles are now passing down through pit lane trying to dry that surface, because obviously once we go back to racing, the speed limit in the pit lane is 80 miles an hour. And when they come in here, if that pit lane is slick, those guys will slide for a long way trying to get stopped for a pit stop.
Yeah, that's definitely a consideration. Plus, the racing surface is just about dry. I would have to say, if you put a percentage on it, some 95, maybe 96%, because The only real spot that we see, Gary, that's presenting any problem at all, and you can't really call that a problem, they just haven't run the emergency vehicles down there as much, is the low side of the front straight. And
near the start-finish
line.
line.
It appears to be just about dried out as well. So once they get that jet dryer to maybe do a pass or two, and you can see it's on the pit exit road there off of 3. Once they get that jet dryer on the pit road, I believe we're going to see the engines fired very, very soon, because that really is the only thing now that needs to be dried.
Well, some of the drivers are in the cockpit with their helmets secure. We can see Ari Leyendijk, that we had heard might be taking a nap earlier. He has the helmet on. He is in the car. Eliseo Salazar also in his car with the helmet on. And we see that Scott Sharp has his helmet on. He's pulling the gloves on right now, about to climb into the race car. And we understand that a United States Auto Club official has just said, quote, "We are very close."
Davey Hamilton slipping on his helmet as well. Of course, Mark Jaynes just talked with him minutes ago, and he'll get set to go back in. So just about every driver here is back in his machine or heading that way. So let's hope we're back to green flag racing very soon here in New Hampshire.
It was interesting that we had the only rookie in the race. Tice Carlson stayed in the car for much of that downtime, and I have to believe he is just ecstatic with what's going on here this afternoon. He got a chance in an Indy car, and obviously, why would he want to climb out? Hey, let's stay in the car as long as we can.
I guess seat time is seat time, huh? It doesn't matter if you're moving or not.
So once again, we still have about 10 or 11 safety vehicles on the track, continuing to run about 25, 30, 35 miles an hour. Now the big group of them over off turn 2 down the backstretch. And again, the groove looks to be raceable as the jet dryer comes out onto the front straightaway. And let's see if he goes to the high side or if he tries to get that section down on the inside at the start-finish line. They are now calling the drivers to the cars. So USAC has called all drivers to report to their cars, so we should be able to fire up here momentarily and go back to racing.
Well, certainly, Gary, if this was a stock car event, the cars would already be on the track because of the header pipes, of course, on the stock cars and the immense heat that is generated there by the exhaust and so low to the ground. The stock cars, you could put those guys on the track and in a matter of a couple of laps have this entire track, all the wet spots dried completely out. However, that's just not the case in an Indianapolis-type car, and they want to make sure, particularly when you're running at the speed that you are on the weight, you're talking about a difference of almost half the weight of a stock car, just over 1,500 pounds. At speeds that are far greater, you want to make sure that everything is as dry as it possibly can be before you expect a guy to run hard down a 1,500-foot straightaway and then turn hard left.
Well, also, as we look across the infield, across the backstretch, there's an elevated section on the outside of the backstretch, and we can see both the Canadian and the American flag flying in the breeze. So any wind that we have would also be an asset to help dry this track out. It's blowing from the front stretch across the infield, across the backstretch.
Well, it's still a beautiful day, despite the fact that we did have the rain shower, and let me say that it was the breathing definition of shower. It came and it went in a matter of just 3 or 4 minutes. Came down just hard enough to soak the entire track, then it went away, and now, of course, we've got a big break in the clouds and an awful lot of blue sky behind us to our west, and it appears, Gary, that we're going to have gorgeous weather for the final 75 laps of this race.
For so many years, we talked about Dick Simon being a car owner. It was so difficult during the month of May to address him as the team engineer for Team Scandi of it. He did sell his operation to Andy Evans, and he is standing by with Vince Welch, I guess, today as a spectator, Vince?
Down here in the Eliseo Salazar pit, and Dick, it was announced just before the race that you have indeed decided to stay with Andy Evans through the year of 1997.
Yes, sir, I sure have, and I'm very excited about it because Andy and I have had about most of the year to work out our little differences, which haven't been all that great. And he's a great guy to work with because he really wants to win. And I'm starting to realize exactly how he operates. He's starting to realize how I operate. And we've both got a lot of confidence in each other at this point. And it appears to me, and I hope obviously to him since he signed the contract, that we do have a good chance to go forward now in a very strong way together.
But what was the key in the decision-making process for you to stay on in the role in which you are instead of maybe breaking off and starting your own IRL team?
Well, mostly money needed to operate a team. And, you know, we always have operated on a very minimal budget. And when we lost Duracell, Raul and Duracell left to go to Ray Hall Hogan, that was a big blow to us because we thought we had him for 3 years. it buried my wife and I to the tune of about $2.5 million. When you have that kind of a loss, you have to sell out to somebody or sell a portion of your company. We ended up selling 49% to Andy, and then he ultimately ended up obtaining the other 51%. I thought very heavily about starting our new team, but I've been so busy trying to work this year to keep this team doing as best as we could and learn to work with Andy that I haven't spent the time to go out and try to find a sponsor for myself. I probably could do that, but at 63 this September, my wife and I have decided to maybe put our efforts together with someone who has the wherewithal to do the things that we couldn't do in the past. One of the reasons Raul left is because he felt that we were a small team, as he said on national worldwide television when he finished second at Laguna Seca the last race. And he said, well, how do you feel now, Raul, about leaving Dick Simon's team finishing second here and doing so well in the last few races? And he says, well, I thank Dick very much for everything, but we need to go to a big team, so-called. Well, with double the budget plus, he's finished 16th in the point standings. He finished 5th and 7th with us. So money isn't everything, but Andy offers that and offers the possibility of winning and proposing to the sponsors and drivers that Diane and I couldn't, the wealth that it takes to run in this series.
Dick Simon, and as you heard him say, he'll spend the rest of 1997 with Andy Evans and Team Scandia.
And of course, Team Scandia also very involved in campaigning the IMSA World Sports Cars, so it's a very big chunk of cake for him to bite into for a racing effort by Andy Evans. We are happy to report not only is the sun shining here in Loudon, New Hampshire, but the cars are rolling. Although silent engines, they are rolling down through the pit area. They're lining them up near the pit exit. So we should be only minutes from being able to get the cars on the track for those 2 yellow flag laps before we turn them loose.
Many of the fans, Gary, certainly have returned to their seats, and it does not appear that many of them have left the facility here. They want to see the final 75 laps of racing, and I'm sure they all wonder, like the crews up and down pit road, they all have to wonder if Tony Stewart will be as good after this red flag delay for the rain. Will he be as good after as he was before? Because he was absolutely unbelievable. Tony Stewart lapping the entire field early on, and now owns a 1-lap lead on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place car. And then the 5th place car, that's the car number 10 of Mike Groff. He finds himself down 2 laps. Ari Leyendyke runs in 2nd place, a lap down. 3rd place, and to much I'm sure, to AJ's delight, it's Scott Sharp, and the scoring problem has apparently been worked out, so Scott Sharp runs in 3rd.
Back to the pit lane, and Mark Jaynes.
Jack Long is with us, and Jack, I saw a banner right before the green flag drop someone had made. Welcome IRL. Got to be a good feeling with the weather, with the exception of the rain, but all in all, a great day here in New Hampshire for the IRL.
Yeah, I like seeing those banners. It makes you feel good about what we're doing and what we're trying to accomplish here. But, you know, these fans up here are fantastic. We knew it was going to be a building process here in New England, but they've come out. The support's been good, and that rainstorm didn't send anybody home, I don't think. Looks like it's clearing up.
This venue, the Las Vegas venue, the addition of Colorado Springs in 1997, it's here to stay.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of growth out of the Indy Racing League in the coming weeks. We've got a commitment to get ourselves into 8-9 races on the short term, and to get to 10 or 12 pretty soon after that, certainly by the year 2000.
Not only is the fan support there and the teams and drivers supporting, but now also with PPG, with a commitment they made with a pole award, and also Pennzoil, the commitment that they've now made not only to the Indy Racing League, but boosting the commitment to Roberto Guerrero's team. Now that you've had a year to sort of prove yourself, actually less than a year, you see the corporate sponsors now believe in the IRL. That's a good feeling as well.
Yeah, we feel awfully good about what we've got done in really just 3 races. This is the 4th race in our history, and it seems like it's been a long time coming, but the truth excuse me, is that we've had a movement now among the corporate sponsors to move towards the Indy Racing League. I honestly think it had a lot to do with just other commitments expiring and them sitting back and making a good business decision. And we think the Indy Racing League makes really good business sense.
Jack Long, the executive director of the Indy Racing League. Gary?
Well, they're now saying to refire the engine, so hopefully momentarily the cars will pull out and we'll have a couple of warm-up laps before we go green. So we'll pause for 10 seconds for station identification. This is the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network. One by one, the engines are firing here at New Hampshire International Speedway. You may recall, for those of you from the New England area, this at one time was Breyer Motorsports Park. In fact, back in the 60s, they ran the Trans Am series here with the likes of Parnelli Jones and Mark Donahue, Swede Savage, Dan Gurney, and Peter Refson. And, of course, Bob Baer then bought the facility and turned it into this excellent, just an immaculate 1 mile paved oval. So hopefully in a matter of minutes we'll have the race cars on the track, and after 2 warm-up laps we can go racing.
Here's the way they will restart after those 2 laps under yellow. They'll restart scoring lap 126. Right now Tony Stewart, the leader by an entire lap. Second place as the cars now roll out of the pit area and onto the racetrack with, of course, the Oldsmobile Aurora pace car bringing them out and around. So Tony Stewart is your leader. Running in second place, he is 1 lap down. Car number 5, that's Ari Lyondike. Running in third, Scott Sharp. Of course, the A.J. Foyt entry in fourth place right now. Car number 4, Richie Hearn. And there are your top 4. Those are the only 4 drivers that are a single lap down. Running in fifth place, car number 10, that's Mike Groff. Shown now in sixth place is the 33 car of Michele Alboreto. In 7th place, that's the 12 car of Buzz Calkins. 8th place is Marco Greco. Running in 9th is the 14 of Davey Hamilton. In 10th place, the 21 car of Roberto Guerrero. In 11th place, car number 22, that's Stefan Gregoire. Gregoire, who's making his first appearance this season with Team Scandia after campaigning a car for Ron Himmelgarn last season. In 12th place is the 18 of John Paul Jr. Running now in 13th place, car number 7, Eliseo Salazar, shown in 13th position. 14th place is the 15 car of Dave Kudray. In 16th place, as some scoring changes are being made right now as we speak. In fact, 15th place is the 30 car, that is Stan Waddles. In 16th place, the 28 of Tyce Carlson, the lone rookie in this field. 17th place, the 51 of Eddie Cheever. He had his problems earlier, but he is still out there despite the fact that he is 34 laps down. Running in 18th place, and actually these cars are all out of the race, so this is the way they will finish. In 18th place, the number 9 car of Brad Murphy. In 19th place, the 91 car of Buddy Lazier. So the Himmelgarn teammates, certainly a disappointing day for Ron Himmelgarn, coming on the heels of the victory at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. In 20th place, the 3 car of Mark Dismore, also out of the race. In 21st, the 96 car, that was Joe Gosick. Running in 22nd, the 27 car of Jim Guthrie, and shown in the 23rd and final position, that's the way he will be scored, the 54 car of Robbie Buell, involved in that first lap incident. Gary?
Well, we look now at the flag stand. Brian Howard has the furled flag indicating 1 more lap before we turn them loose. This would be the completion of the first warm-up lap under yellow. They'll go 1 more, and then the green flag should come out as they start lap 126. But again, our question is, as the pace car pulls off, they turn the field over to Tony Stewart. My question is, can these guys go the distance without a yellow? Can they stretch out the fuel supply and go the distance without that splash and go late in the race?
75 laps, Gary, 75 miles certainly would be a stretch. We'll just have to wait and see. As we get set to go back to green.
Lyondike says he can go the distance. Curry says that the leader will have to make a stop. The green flag flies. We are racing once again in Loudon, New Hampshire. So let's see if Tony Stewart can pick up where he left off before this lengthy delay because of the red flag due to rain.
Ari Lyondike and Scott Sharp will have to look to unlap themselves quickly if they have any hope at all of catching the number 2 car. Tony Stewart still running in first place as they come across the start-finish line. And right now, Gary, don't see anybody making up a lot of ground, but Ari Lyondike is on the move.
Well, we were down for about 46 minutes because of that rain delay. The track is dry. The sun is shining. In fact, the sun is shining as brightly as it was earlier before we came on the air. On that restart, it looked like Davey Hamilton was able to stay with Tony Stewart. They're running nose to tail down the front stretch. Then a big gap back on the track to John Paul Jr. Another big gap back to Eddie Cheever.
Well, of course, many of the teams mentioned that they would make wholesale changes during that lengthy red flag stop. We'll just have to wait and see if it made any difference. It appears that it's made some difference for Davey Hamilton and A.J. Foyt's number 14 because, as you said now, we have run 3 laps under green, and Hamilton has not been able, or rather Stewart has not been able to shake Hamilton, despite the fact that you got to remember that 14 car is 4 laps down.
Well, Vince Welch and Mark Jaynes have been walking through the pit lane taking a survey of crews, and the question is, can you go the distance? After you topped off the fuel under this red condition, can you go the distance? The car is slowing down on the backstretch. That looks to be, is that Dave Kudrave? Dave Kudrave in the number 15 car headed for the pit lane. The general consensus seems to be that they would all like to see a yellow, which would alleviate the question mark of do we stretch it out or do we stop late for a splash and go? So the question is asked, the answer somewhat uncertain.
That's going to be interesting. It's going to make the final laps of this race interesting if we remain green for the final 70 laps. That is for sure. Dave Kudrave has pulled the car in. A USAC official there looking over as they talk to him. It appears that his day is done.
Second place belongs to the number 5 Bryant car of Ari Lyondike, but right now he is a lap and a half back. Now on the scoring pylon in the infield, it just shows -1. That indicates he's at least 1 lap behind the leader, but in reality, he's a lap and a half back, and it looks like Tony now begins to pull away from that black and orange number 14 of Davey Hamilton. So indeed, he is picking up where he left off. This is his race to win, should he not have any mechanical gremlins.
Well, as much as he has been spending time in race cars, you can bet that he is sharp. Now, not all of the race cars he's been spending time in, obviously, have been Indy Racing League machines, but he has spent an awful lot of time keeping his skills sharp, and he says that that is what keeps him as racy as he is, and right now, he's just got the machine that he can put the foot into and run away from the field.
Well, the way he has been running, he could actually get another lap up on the field, and that way he could cruise through pit lane for a splash and go if need be, and never really have to break a sweat.
Well, that's the case right now, though, Gary. You got to figure with the lap, takes them roughly 23, 24 seconds to make a tour lap of this track. Stewart can get in and get out, and since he is a lap up, can come out and probably still be in front of the field.
You know, one thing about the color scheme on this Menard chassis, or the, we should say the Lola chassis with the Menard power plant, is that neon, kind of a greenish yellow with that bright orange trim. And if he is coming up behind a car, it's very easy for that driver to see him about to overtake that position.
It's just amazing to look at what he has done now, because as we said, for the first 3 laps after the green flag flew, Davey Hamilton stayed within a car length or 2 of him, and now, Gary, there's an entire straightaway difference in where Tony Stewart runs on the track and where Davey Hamilton is.
A.J. Foyt does not always win an argument with race officials. Apparently he won the earlier one that we alluded to, because right now we are showing from timing and scoring that his driver, Scott Sharp, is indeed in 3rd position. So Scott Sharp is 3rd, but he now is about a straightaway behind 2nd place Ari Lyondike. As Lyondike goes in now to turn 4, Scott Sharp is just entering turn 3, so he has a straightaway deficit on 2nd place Ari Lyondike, and Lyondike has a lap and a half deficit on Tony Stewart.
Michele Alboreto continues to improve out there. It looks like his car is coming to him a little bit as he's able to run more green lap time, but we'll have to wait and see. Michele Alboreto, of course, started on the outside of the front row, and right now, Gary, is shown in 6th place, but he is 2 laps down.
Well, we mentioned that Lyondike is 2nd, Sharp is 3rd, Richie Hurd now a lap down in 4th position, and 5th would be the Mike Groff car number 10. Now that is a new team that has joined together for this Indy Racing League season. That's the Clayton Cunningham and Jonathan Bird organization. Jonathan Bird had been with Fred Treadway. They had been fielding Ari Lyondike for the first Indy Racing League season. And of course, at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Clayton Cunningham had the 75 car that was driven by Johnny O'Connell. Let's go down and check with Vince Welch.
I'm standing by with Jonathan Bird, and Jonathan, the first time out for this team, and you've got Mike Groff running 5th, and despite being a lap down, you've got to be pleased with what's happening.
Well, we really are. This team has come together very quickly, and Mike's just doing an excellent job out there. We're very excited about getting a good finish yet today. We're just now looking at the fuel situation, because if there's one more yellow, we may be able to make it all the way without another stop, which could be an advantage.
Seems as though everyone is waiting for that one more yellow.
Well, some people need it a little worse than others. We've decided that because we're able to run quicker than the cars behind us right now, and we're the lead car on the lap that we're on, that we're just as well off to go ahead and try to conserve the fuel. So we may not need quite as long a yellow as some others might.
Jonathan Bird, his driver, Mike Groff, is in 5th.
Well, the best battle on the racetrack right now is not for position, but over in turn 3, Scott Sharp, after trying for a lap, finally got to the inside of Eliseo Salazar and scooted on by. And now he's pulling up behind Michele Alboreto. Michele some 2 laps off the pace, so that would not be a pass for position. Once again, only 1 driver on the lead lap, and now 3 drivers on one lap down to the leader. But right now, there is no position being contested on the racetrack.
Gary, it's funny. It looks like Michele Alboreto is a man on the move, trying to make his way up through the field, but then you look about 300 yards behind him, and here comes Tony Stewart ready to put him another lap down. It looked like he was making up space on the race course, judging by the way he was performing versus other cars in front of him. But right now, Stewart has closed the gap to, I would say 8, maybe 10 car lengths as he tries to put him another lap down as they head into 3.
Well, he goes around Eliseo Salazar, now into turn 4 off the 12-degree banking, tucks in behind the number 22 car.
Well, that's Stefan Gregoire right now that he's running behind as he puts him another lap down as well. Stefan Gregoire in car number 22 shown in 12th place, and he is now 7 laps down, Gary.
Well, I have to think that Larry Curry, that is on the headset talking to Tony Stewart, is saying, hey, maintain your rhythm. Don't overdrive the car. Don't overextend yourself. Maintain a rhythm. So don't do anything stupid trying to pass somebody.
And at the same time, don't underdrive the car. Don't try to save it too much. He's in a rhythm now where he is absolutely flying around the racetrack. You've been in a race car enough to know that when you're in that groove, you don't change anything about it.
I don't think I was ever in that groove.
Well, a few guys get in the groove that Tony Stewart's in right now, that's for sure.
Well, Tony continues to go through traffic. In fact, he's giving a clinic out there right now on driving through traffic. We work on lap 148.
Gary, we got to notice, too, as many of these drivers have gone out onto the track after some changes have been made on the cars, you got to notice that many of them now are driving either below or down on that yellow line. So whatever they've done, the adjustments they have made, it has enabled them to run lower on this racetrack.
Well, of course, this track has changed so much this week, not only because of the weather, but before the practice session even began, they had that new surfacing on the inside of all the turns. Then all the rubber laid down yesterday in practice and qualifying for those Featherlight NASCAR modifieds. But this rain would change the track one more time. So they were able to make an adjustment during that red flag period for the track as it was with all the rubber. But now it's changed even more. But still, it has not slowed Tony Stewart.
Well, he just put Scott Sharp one more lap down. So now Scott Sharp, who is running in 3rd place, runs 2 laps down to Tony Stewart, and Tony Stewart continues to impress.
Tony Stewart comes down the front stretch to complete lap 150 with 50 laps to go.
The legend begins as Major League Auto Racing comes to the entertainment capital of the world, and you're invited to the grand opening celebration. Be a part of auto racing history as Las Vegas Motor Speedway proudly presents its inaugural event, the Las Vegas 500, for the Indy Racing League on Sunday, September 15th. See the cars and stars of the all-new Indy Racing League at the world's premier motorsports entertainment complex. Tickets go on sale March 1st. Phone 702-644-4444 for ticket info. Sunday, September 15th. Don't miss the Indy Racing League at Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
When it's time to make the choice for your family and your car, you don't make compromises when you know what the choices are. So take a stand for quality and safety's sake. Say Ray Vestas, the best in brakes. Say Ray Vestas, the best in brakes. Say Ray Vestas, the best in brakes.
From New Hampshire, this is the Indy Racing League. On lap 156, the complexion of this race changes again because 2nd place, Ari Leyendijk, is in the pits. Mark?
Brad McCandless and company going to work on the right front. It looks like the brake rotor, Gary, and Ari pulled the car in, shut it off. It's up on the jacks, and again, they're concentrating on the right front wheel. They have the wheel off. They're looking in the area of the brakes.
So he continues to fall on the scoring pylon. Now, this means, Mike King, that Tony Stewart has a lap plus lead on 2nd place, Scott, now 2-lap lead, a 2-lap lead now on Scott Sharp.
2-lap lead on Scott Sharp with 44 laps remaining. He leads the entire field by at least 2 laps. Right now, Richie Hearn runs in 3rd place, also 2 laps down, but the 3rd place car, the number 10 car of Mike Groff, is 3 laps down in 4th place. Gary, if he continues to run at this kind of pace, he can bring it in at lap 195 or 196, take off the helmet, comb the hair, brush his teeth, and get set for a really nice look in victory lane.
Be daisy fresh when he gets
Boy,
to victory
he
lane.
really could be.
This is a most impressive afternoon for the youngster that still calls Rushville, Indiana home. In fact, he said, I live in Indianapolis. I kind of grew up in Columbus, Indiana. I only spent about 2 years in Rushville, but you know, the mayor still sends me clippings from the newspaper. He said, those fans are great in Rushville. I claim them as my hometown folk. And he always goes back at least once a year to race a TQ midget race at the fairgrounds. What did he do when he was down there? He won the race. And Richie Hearn is heading for the pit lane.
So Richie Hearn comes in as well. This is your 3rd place car. Unbelievable. By the way, we got to add that the folks in Rushville absolutely embrace the guy.
Mark Jaynes is there.
We're down in the pit of Richie Hearn. They're throwing in a load of fuel, and actually it looks more or less just like a splash and go. They're having a little conversation, not really making any adjustments, and they give the okay, and he's underway, just a splash and go.
I can't imagine a splash and go right now.
No, it doesn't make any sense. Certainly they would not. It doesn't seem that they would need any fuel at this point. We've still got 40 laps remaining. We've only run 35 laps since we had the red flag for the rain. So it makes no sense at all that they would have to bring it in now for fuel. There must be a problem with that car.
Work continues on the right front brake mechanism on the number 5 Lyondike car, because that car remains in the pit lane.
Gary, unless, of course, John Della Penna is throwing the dice thinking that this thing is going to go green the rest of the way, knowing that everyone else is going to have to come in for a splash and go, and they decided to do it early.
Well, let's get an update from Larry Curry, who runs Team Menard, and he has his driver out in front right now, Vince.
Tony Stewart's leading by 2 laps, Larry. What are you telling him?
We're just telling him to take care of his car and take it easy. He's got 2 laps on the field. We have to come in and get a splash of fuel. Just telling him to really be cautious in traffic, you know.
About what lap will you bring him in?
I'd say with about 15 to go, 20 to go, something like that.
Tony Stewart, he's up by 2 laps.
And of course, that would be a very, very difficult time for something to go wrong, because you can tear up a clutch, as we saw happen earlier with his teammate Mark Dismore. You could stall the engine in a pit stop. So, you know, he has to keep that rhythm on the racetrack as well as in the pits when he makes that final stop for the splash and go.
Well, there have only been 3 leaders in this race, Richie Hearn, Arie Luyendyk, and Tony Stewart, who, of course, has led the lion's share of the laps here today. You know, you've got to wonder, too, if Larry Curry will make sure that he times that splash and go so it will not coincide with Roberto Guerrero. Guerrero's pit, the stall is directly in front of Stewart's stall. They have already had one problem with Guerrero cutting it a bit close. He has run over the foot of one of the crew members of Tony Stewart's team, so you can bet that if he possibly can, Larry Curry will make sure that he staggers the stop of Tony Stewart so it does not coincide with that of Roberto Guerrero.
Well, of course, he could walk down there and talk to the crew of Pagan Racing and say, you know, John Barnes, when are you going to bring your driver in? Let's coordinate this thing. Our guy has a chance to win this thing in a major domination. But I'm still curious, Mark Jaynes, as to why did Richie Hearn come in at that point in time for that splash and go?
Something broke on the car, and the fuel was actually, it was an opportunity to come in and throw the fuel into the car, but John Della Penna took a piece of debris off of that car and handed it up to the guys on the pit wall. They're not in a real talkative mood right now. They're not real happy, so it looks as though Richie Hearn not going to be able to challenge for the checkered flag here. And again, John Della Penna and company very, very dejected, but no word as to exactly yet what's wrong with that car.
Well, right now he has dropped to 6th position. Now back in 9th position is the number 21 Pennzoil car of Roberto Guerrero. And Vince Welch, I understand that they are very much on the edge of that fuel envelope.
That's exactly right, Gary. And although Guerrero's team is quite a bit off the pace, Mike King touched on the fact that the Menard team of Stewart and Guerrero are in adjacent pits, and they want to probably make sure that they don't come in together. Guerrero's is 6 laps off the pace, but they still want to stay out there if at all possible. But they're right on the fence as far as the fuel is concerned, so they haven't quite made the decision yet.
Richie Hearn slowing down as he was placed another lap down by your leader, Tony Stewart, as Tony completes 170 laps, and Richie Hearn is headed back to the pit lane. So whatever that problem was earlier, it has not been corrected. So Hearn rolls to a stop. The crew goes to work looking at the rear of the car. And Mark, are you down there?
Well, Richie Hearn, of course, had qualified for the pole at better than 175 miles an hour. Appeared to be at least one of the drivers to contend with here today. Is one of the 3 drivers that has been leading this race, but now, well, Richie Hearn is out of the car very quickly, and it looks like he is quite disappointed. He is already out. He's done for the day, and here comes Eliseo Salazar.
Salazar pits directly in front of Hearn. Hearn's cowling, the rear cowling comes off the engine, and Hearn now is out of the car. The helmet is off, and he is out of the race. So now 172 laps are complete, and once again, we have Tony Stewart by about 2.5 laps over car number 1, Scott Sharp. Let's go back and find out what happened to Richie Hearn.
They pulled a piece of debris off the car when you came in the last time. Richie, what happened?
It just pulled off the duct. It was overheating, and there's something wrong with it because it was running about 136 degrees. So whatever.
A very dejected Richie Hearn. His day has come to an end, Gary.
Well, of course, he was the fast qualifier yesterday at 175.3 and picked up the $10,000 PPG Pole Award. That was a brand new award announced just this weekend, that all the pole position drivers in this Indy Racing League season will receive $10,000 from PPG.
Richie Hearn, Gary, is one of those young lions, much out of the same mold as Tony Stewart. He wears those emotions on his sleeves. If he is not running up front, he lets you know it. And certainly when he cannot compete in a race and run up front, he is a very dejected driver, as you just heard with Mark Jaynes.
Let's quickly get an update on Ari Leyendijk, who remains in the pit lane.
Well, the right front rotor, Gary, basically melted. They had the backup car on the pit wall. The crew went to work feverishly. They took a right front rotor off the backup car. They're still working on getting it on the car. Ari is still in it, and he hopes to get back in the race.
So now with a 2.5 lap lead, only 24 laps to go in Loudon, New Hampshire.
You think about your car a lot. You have grease under your fingernails. You can name all the NASCAR drivers and the cars they drive. You know rebuilding a 4-barrel isn't easy. It's fun. You can talk for hours about carburetors. You read about the auto show. You go to the auto show. You understand the difference between 30 weight and 40 weight. And you know where to go if you don't. True Value, official hardware store of NASCAR and garages everywhere. So hey, come into True Value and find everything you need for your car. Like Gojo Natural Citrus Hand Cleaner with pumice. It has a clean, fresh scent and really powers out grease and grime. USA Fashion Magic's Ratchet Tie Down secures cargo for transport on your trailer or truck with coated hooks that won't damage your vehicle's finish. The 8-gallon Rubbermaid Action Packer storage container features double wall construction and a sturdy hinge lid for a tight, water-resistant seal. True Value. Help is just around the corner.
From New Hampshire, this is the Indy Racing League. Our live flag-to-flag coverage of the True Value 200 on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network continues. I'm Gary Lee, alongside is Mike King. In the pit lane, Vince Welch and Mark Jaynes. And reestablish what has transpired as we have a car coming to the pits.
Tony Stewart.
Tony Stewart is headed for pit lane. Tony Stewart, with almost a 3-lap lead, is very, very slow. The speed limit is 80 miles an hour. He's not even going that fast. Oh, my, the engine is dead.
Oh, you've got to wonder, Gary, can it be that he has experienced mechanical failure again? Oh, my word, that's unbelievable.
Vince, you're down there.
I sure am. They don't seem to be panicking at all. They are, of course, refueling the car, and everyone seems to be very calm. No tire changes or anything, just refueling the car. Now they'll spray a little water on it. They're getting ready to refire it, telling Tony to go ahead and fire it. The car is not starting, and Tony Stewart's still in the pits. again, is they're just sitting quietly, and now all of a sudden they're going to, I believe, take off the rear cowling. There is indeed problems for Tony Stewart. Let's go back upstairs.
Well, of course, we saw this happen at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Right now, Scott Sharp still 2 laps down, actually a lap down now. He was about to go 3 laps down. We were just about to say with 20 laps to go that Scott Sharp was about to be placed another lap down. We see Arie Luyendyk is back on the race course. And now first place belongs to car number 1. He's got another lap to go.
That's right, Gary. One more lap around. He is 1 lap down now, and he will move to the top of the leaderboard. Scott Sharp now on the back straight. He's a half lap away from unlapping himself not once but twice, and Tony Stewart still sits in the pits. Unbelievable, but like you said earlier, it's not over till it's over, and here comes Sharp.
And as Sharp now assumes the lead, let's go back to the pit where Mark Jaynes is standing by in the Foyt pit.
Well, all the guys are looking around at one another, and they're watching Scott make his circuits around, watching him unlap himself, and they're all looking down towards Tony Stewart's pit with a little bit of a smile on their face. So everything, all smiles right now in the pit of Scott Sharp as he is about ready to unlap himself. He was 3 laps down. The problems with Tony Stewart. Let's get an update on that from Vince Welch.
Well, the team that looked very relaxed when Tony Stewart rolled in is now working quite anxiously. Something on the right side of the car. They've got the right side pod off, and they are making corrections. There was a little bit of smoke from the backside, but you can see this is not the way that Team Menard had hoped that this would work out. And as you said, Scott Sharp is now the leader after Tony Stewart has dominated this race much of the day.
Well, Scott Sharp has now moved to the lead. Second position would be, we think, car number 10. That would be Mike Groff. Third, Alboreto in the 33 car for Team Scandia.
The 4th place car, Buzz Calkins, he's shown a lap down, but now suddenly, Gary, we have got 3 cars on the lead lap, and all 3 of them have to come in for at least a splash and go, or so it would appear, with 16 laps remaining.
So Tony Stewart remains in the cockpit. The car remains in the pit lane. 84 laps, 85 laps, now complete. 15 laps to go. Your leader is Scott Sharp out of California, a co-champion in this Indy Racing League in the inaugural season, driving the Conseco A.J. Foyt entry. He rounds the banking of turn 4. Down to complete 1 more circuit, pulls up behind Alboreto as he enters turn 1. 87 laps, 187. Now complete, 13 laps to go.
By the way, Arie Luyendyk is back on the track, but Arie Luyendyk is not a factor in this race now. He is 30 laps down after problems earlier.
We're trying to pick up the interval now between first and second. And as we do that, let's go back to the pit lane, Vince.
Tony Stewart has climbed out of the car. The electronics of the car have just shut down, and I have not seen a more dejected crew than this Team Menard group. They believed that they had this one in their grasp, and it was certainly easy to understand after seeing Tony Stewart dominate this race all day. But a lot of long faces at the Team Menard pit area. Tony Stewart sitting on the pit wall, and again we repeat, the electronics of the car just shut down.
Well, right now, your leader is Scott Sharp. Scott Sharp has almost a lap lead on Mike Groff. Mike Groff right now runs off the second corner as your leader enters the second corner. So there's about a straightaway now that Sharp would have to make up before he places second place a lap down. Now lap 190, about to be complete. 19.5 seconds between first and second. Now entering the first turn.
Gary,
with 10 laps to go.
The situation with Tony Stewart, almost a carbon copy of what happened to this team at Phoenix. He was out front. He was the strongest car on the track. The car simply, well, the engine just died on him. They could not get it refired, and his day was done at Phoenix as well. Unbelievable that this could strike this team after dominating this race here today.
1 more lap complete as we follow that blue and white number 1. Conseco, the sponsor, A.J. Foyt, the 4-time champion of the Indy 500, the team owner. He, of course, was the championship car owner in the inaugural Indy Racing League season. 20.9 seconds now, the interval between first and second. Now with 8 laps to go as the blue and white Conseco car flashes across the start-finish line. And in fact, as Scott Sharp runs off the second corner, we can look down the backstretch and see second place Mike Groff entering turn 3.
Now the question, Gary, that of course Mark Jaynes and Vince Welch will probably be asking very soon is, can Mike Groff make it? And can, well, we
look
see
at Groff.
it. Yeah.
Groff in a very late decision, headed for pit lane. Apparently that car gasping for gas. and he made a very, very late decision, almost upset the chassis enough to spin coming through turn 4 as he entered the pit lane. Vince?
Mike Groff has come in, and they are indeed just topping off the fuel. They just give him 5 quick seconds of fuel and push him off, and Mike Groff is splash and go out into turn 1.
Scott Sharp, however, still the leader as he continues to chase down that second-place car and looks to put another lap on Mike Groff. Now the question is, we're being told from downstairs that it looks like Scott Sharp will stay out and try to go the distance.
Well, AJO Supertex is a gambler, so he's going to roll the dice and say, we have the lead. We're up now by over a lap, so let's see, with about 5 laps to go. Where is Sharp? Down the front stretch, across the start-finish line. 5 laps to go.
What a story this would be. It looked like that a team that had never won a race in an Indianapolis-type competition would find its way to victory lane, and instead it looks like A.J. Foyt now will be able to make the trip with his young driver, Scott Sharp.
Well, right now, the scoring pylon is showing the number 12 car of Buzz Calkins in second position. And Calkins now, well, he is a lap down, but right now he enters turn 1, and about 150, 200 yards behind him is Scott Sharp. So Scott can certainly see his nemesis right now out in front, almost 2 laps back in the waning moments. I understand down in the Foyt pit they're crossing everything they possibly can cross, hoping this car has enough methanol to go the distance. 3 laps to go across the start-finish line into the banking of turn number 1. The 12-degree banking of turn 2. We follow Scott Sharp out of Danville, California. Former Trans Am champion, heads into turn 3. We'll have 2 laps to go down the front straightaway this time.
Gary, Scott Sharp has been very consistent. He was 11th at Orlando, 2nd at Phoenix, and 9th at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and he's come out of the throttle a bit. The last thing they want to do is run out of fuel.
A.J. Foyt on the headset with his driver said, slow down, conserve fuel. You're almost 2 laps up. And so now down the backstretch into turn 3. And we look down at the flag stand for Brian Howard to unveil that white flag for Scott Sharp. Sharp over the start-finish line. The white flag, 1 lap to go in the True Value 200. Scott Sharp, if he has enough fuel to go this final lap, he's off the second corner. Down the backstretch, he has clear sailing out in front, no traffic out in front as he enters turn 3 for the final time. Now he slides into turn 4, off the corner. We have the dual checkered flags, and Scott Sharp, raising his hand in victory, has claimed victory in the True Value 200.
Talk about a happy pit. They're down there congratulating. Talk about a happy pit. They're down there congratulating A.J. Foyt. High fives all around. And this is a team that has looked to win, certainly since the onset of the Indy Racing League. And right now, A.J. Foyt has got to be one happy man.
Well, of course, he has won as a car owner when he was driving. This is his first time to win as a car owner with another driver. And it is jubilation time down there in the Foyt pit. High fives and hugs everywhere, folks running around and jumping. Mark, let's go to you with that victory celebration in the Foyt pit.
AJ, congratulations. You fought hard after that red flag to get that lap back. That certainly didn't hurt.
We did, and you know, like in Nazareth, we led to lap 199, and it's just great to see Scotty, you know, with the young boy like he is, and what a great job he's doing.
Well, you're certainly a gambler. You gambled with the fuel. You told him to slow down those last couple of laps.
Well, I had him just trying to play it with the computer and not make a mistake like we did at Nazareth.
Go celebrate it. Congratulations. All smiles down here. They worked very, very hard to get that checkered flag today.
Can you imagine when AJ came up in Roadsters talking about, we'll go back and address the computer and see how much fuel we have left?
Well, I tell you what, A.J. Foyt is one happy car owner. Scott Sharp thrusting the fist into the air as he starts, as he crosses the start-finish line. What a great scene in A.J. Foyt's pit. What an incredible disappointment for Larry Curry and Team Menard. Unbelievable as the car of Tony Stewart, which dominated this race, continues to sit in his pit. That team so dejected with 186 laps complete and a two-lap advantage on the entire field. Electronics took him out of the race.
Vince Welch, you have the winner.
Scott Sharp is hugging everyone and congratulating, giving high fives in a very unlikely victory today. And Scott, if you ever come back down to earth after this one, congratulations on the win, the defending Indy Racing League points champion, and here you are, winner of the first race of 1996-97 season.
Well, I just want to thank God. It was a safe race. Watching over us, the team, AJ and the team just did fantastic. Goodyear tires really ran well. Just kept trimming on the car, it got better and better, and I can't believe it happened.
Were you just holding in there, maybe trying to fight for second place because Stewart was had his car on rails today?
Well, we were pretty hooked up. I didn't think we had what we could take to run with Tony, but you know, even at the rain, I said, boy, if it keeps raining, it wouldn't be all bad finishing third, but we just kept fighting and it came back to us. It's unbelievable.
Was there any question at all of whether or not you had enough fuel?
Yeah, we backed off big time with the last few laps. You know, we were pretty tight, and we didn't know if we could make it or not, so I just started backing way down, coasting. It was the fuel meter sort of went a little funny, so we weren't sure. We were just holding our breath.
Talk about how important it is for you to win with the guy standing behind you as your car owner, A.J. Foyt.
Well, I tell you, since I first ran for him in 1995 at the Speedway, I've been wanting to win a race for him, and he's been long overdue, so it's a real honor to drive for him, and the guys have worked so hard, and I'm just real happy to be able to deliver it.
Scott Sharp, the winner of the first race of the 96-97 Indy Racing League. True Value 200. Let's go to Mark Jaynes with the second place finisher.
We are walking up pit road with a very, very elated Buzz Calkins. You guys worked very, very hard, and it paid off for the second place finish.
Yeah, I think we were kind of the sleeper this week, and, you know, we didn't qualify all that great, but we knew we were going to have a good race car. And so we just kind of, you know, bided our time during the race, kind of let other people drop out, let other people make mistakes, and we ended up all right in the end.
Boy, and that's pretty much the way you had to do it. This track was so very hard to figure out, both in practice and qualifying.
Yeah, during practice, instead of concentrating on a car that we could qualify with quick, we wanted a car that we could run down on the new pavement with where it was pretty slick. So it wasn't necessarily the fastest car around, but it obviously paid off during the race.
Well, if you're going to defend a points championship, a second place finish in the first race of the season is a bad place to start.
I got to get up. The other guy that finished on the first with me in the championship last year got a position ahead of me, so I'm going to have to work on him for the next race.
Buzz Calkins, congratulations, your second place finisher here this afternoon.
Well, Mike, let's get a rundown now. What a way to finish the race. It's not over till it's over. We thought Tony Stewart had them covered. He was the dominant car driver combination. An electrical gremlin put him in the pit lane.
Yeah, it really is a shame. But on the other hand, it's absolutely fabulous to see A.J. Foyt and Scott Sharp back in victory lane. In fact, in victory lane for the first time as members of the Indy Racing League. And our co-champions, they run 1-2 here today. First place goes to Scott Sharp from Danville, California. He and the A.J. Foyt Conseco entry. And, boy, it had to be an incredible feeling as he took the lead from Tony Stewart. We're finishing second place is Buzz Calkins from Denver, Colorado. In third place, also on the lead lap at the finish, an outstanding run, Gary, for Michele Alboreto, making his fourth career appearance on an oval. He qualified, you'll remember, for the outside of the front row. One lap down, finishing in fourth place with the brand new Jonathan Bird Cunningham Racing Team, Mike Groff from Pasadena, California. Finishing in fifth place was Scott Sharp's teammate in the 14 car. That would be Davey Hamilton. Sixth place, the 21 car of Roberto Guerrero. In seventh place, the 40 car of Marco Greco. In eighth place, the 22 of Stefan Gregoire. Ninth place goes to Eliseo Salazar. 10th place goes to John Paul Jr. And the final 13 finishers in 11th position, the 28 car of Tice Carlson. An outstanding run for the rookie, Gary, as the rookie brings it home in 11th place in his first IRL appearance. He, of course, is the Ray Bestos rookie of the race. In 12th place, the 2 car of Tony Stewart, who led up until the lap 182 mark when Mechanical Gremlins once again put him on the sidelines despite the fact that he was 2 laps up on the field when he pulled the car into the pits. 13th place, the 5 car of Ari Leyendyke, who had some problems throughout the afternoon. The 14th place finisher, car number 4, Richie Hearn from Canyon Country, California, who of course was the pole sitter. He will pick up 2 points today for being your pole sitter. And in 15th place, the 51 car of Eddie Cheever, the new driver and owner. The 16 place position goes to the 30 car of Stan Waddles, who went out of the race early. 17th place to the 15 of David Kudrave. 18th place today was the number 9 car that belongs to Brad Murphy. 19th place, the 91 car of Buddy Lazier. The 20th position, the number 3 car of Mark Dismore. Finishing in 21st place was Joe Gosick in car number 96. 22nd place finisher today in the 54 car, Robbie Buell, and the 23rd finisher who had the first lap incident in car number 27, Jim Guthrie.
Live coverage of the True Value 200 from New Hampshire International Speedway has been brought to you by Aurora, proud to be the official pace car of the Indy Racing League, and by Ray Bestis. With safety, there is no compromise. Insist on Ray Bestis, the best in brakes. And by True Value, the official hardware store of the Indy Racing League. Stations, we thank you for staying with us this afternoon. The Speedway Radio Network Executive Committee is Bill Donaldson, Chris Duffy, and Tony George. Our network coordinator is Kurt Hunt. The affiliate coordinator is Don Baer, assisted by Bonnie Lokita. Our technical director is Tom Alibrandi. Master Control Operations by Norm Birnbaum and Chris Pollock. Production assistance by Steve Wilmus. Our race reporters today have been Mark Jaynes, Mike King, and Vince Welch. Our producer is John Royer. And this is Gary Lee, reminding you to join us on September 14th and 15th for more Indy Racing League action from the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. This race broadcast is a copyrighted feature program of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network.